Chapter 701. The meeting between Edith, Layla, and Ghost. Michael and Gaia finished planning for the day and exited the room. Prince Devarius needed rest and a good meal after being tortured by the Thusians. Michael stayed in King Gunnar's castle. After the meeting, Gaia finally left for the Kane castle. Michael teleported to the royal land. He himself was about to leave for the floating mountain given to him by Eve's father when he heard a melodious thunderclap reverberate throughout the castle. "My lord, Lady Alden and her sister Edith want to meet you," Michael heard Azazel's voice in his head. Layla was still wearing the spider pendant Michael gave her. Therefore, Azazel was able to see everything Layla saw. "She is here," Michael said. He calmly walked out of the castle to see several soldiers gathered in the front yard. They all mistook Layla for an intruder. General Bryce stood in front of the guards, fully armed to the teeth. "Master Ghost, did you hear that?" asked General Bryce. Michael nodded. General Bryce and the soldiers became a bit relieved after they saw Michael. He waited for Layla to appear before him. To his surprise, only a golden parchment appeared in the air. It slowly floated down to Michael and landed straight in his hands. "General Bryce, do you know where this charming shrimp restaurant is?" Michael's question slightly surprised General Bryce. This place was very famous for seafood. Granted, this place served delicious food, but he doubted this was the right time to satiate Ghost's hunger for seafood. "It's a few blocks away from the castle, nonetheless," General Bryce answered him truthfully. After all, Ghost was a half-immortal. "Show me the way." "Someone wants to meet me." General Bryce personally led the way to the restaurant. The place was closed due to the recent war between Suvin and Thusia. When Michael reached the place, he sensed the presence of Layla and Edith. "You can go now, General Bryce. You have nothing to worry about." Michael dismissed General Bryce with a pat on his back. Afterward, Michael descended to the ground. The people on the streets immediately stopped murmuring. Many looked at Michael with eyes full of fear and reverence. Ignoring the gazes, Michael opened the wooden door. As he entered the restaurant, he was welcomed by a clean, tidy restaurant. The place was nothing like Hades in terms of grandeur. It had several round oak tables clothed in white sheets. The chairs looked comfy enough. At the corner of the restaurant, Michael saw Layla. Images of their last meeting in the rain flashed across Michael's eyes. When she saw Michael, her eyes glimmered with a mix of joy, sorrow, and shock. A gentle smile emerged on Michael's face. But the smile disappeared when he saw Edith. She reminded Michael of Victoria. Michael slowly made his way to their table. Except for a young girl, the restaurant looked empty. Michael slid into his chair and leaned back against the wall. He signaled the young girl to come to them. "Just hot water for me," said Michael. "Nothing for us, thank you," Edith dismissed the girl. Michael wondered why Layla was here to meet him with Edith. But they didn't utter a word. Instead, they waited for the young girl to come to their table with Michael's hot water. Michael noticed Edith glancing at him with mixed emotions. Fear and anger glimmered in her eyes. "My lord," finally, the young girl brought a glass of hot water. She broke the silence that enveloped them. "Thank you, dear." Michael gave the young girl a gold coin before dismissing her. After she left the place, Michael turned his gaze toward Layla and Edith. "How are you, Layla?" asked Michael. "Doing well. What about you?" This chapter upload first at NovelBin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit novelnext.com to experience faster update speed. Never been better, Michael winked. "So tell me, why did you want to meet me?" "I don't have all day, you know. I have a war to fight." Michael took a small sip of the hot water. "I want you to stop what you're doing." Michael almost spurted out the water in his mouth when he heard Edith. "Excuse me." Michael placed the glass down with an amused smile. "I want you to stop killing Thusians," said Edith. Michael glanced at Layla for a moment. Judging by the look on her face, this wasn't her idea. That was sure. Layla even looked a bit embarrassed of Edith's naivety. So it's okay for the Thusians to kill the soldiers of Zulon, Suvan, and Northgard. Michael tilted his head. No. But it's between those kingdoms. None of them put the mutilated bodies in wooden crates and sent them to Thusia. You paraded their bodies through the cities, Edith growled. However, Michael responded with a slight smile. Let me get this straight, Michael chuckled. You're saying it's okay for Thusia to slaughter all those soldiers, take away their homeland and hang those who resist, but I cannot help them retake what they lost. We both know you are not helping. You're using them. I know what happened between you and Thusia, Ghost. I know. The smile on Michael's face disappeared almost immediately. Instead, a murdering cold look glistened in his eyes. The temperature in the place dropped by several degrees. Layla could feel the killing radiating from his body. She had never felt such killing intent ever before in her life. Listen to me. King Maxim Barnes and Victoria didn't have a choice. I am not defending them for what they did, but they were desperate. If they didn't take it, the Thusians would have gone extinct. As a king and a princess, they did what they had to. Michael's hands shivered. The veins in his eyes popped, making his eyes bloodshot red. His gaze slowly turned to Layla. Do you know what the Thusians did to me, Layla? His voice was cold. Layla shook her head. Novel bin, no. And I am not here to broker peace between you and Thusia. I am here to protect my little sister. Michael was somewhat calmed by her response. If Layla knew what the Thusians did to him and came here to ask him to forgive the Thusians, this meeting would have gone in another way. Have you lost anyone you loved and cared for, Edith? Asked Michael. Edith felt lucky that she didn't. But she didn't dare to say that. 135, said Michael. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net, not all of them were grown up. You said they had no choice, right? Do you know who else didn't have a choice? A 6-month-old infant. I can still hear its cries. They slaughtered everyone, but their deaths weren't quick. The Thusians took their time. Layla noticed Ghost's eyes welling up. 12 hours. They killed my people one by one. Their blades didn't discriminate between children and women. They made a bonfire and threw the bodies into it one by one. Are you telling me the Thusians did that because they had no choice? Look me in the eyes and tell me your friend didn't have a choice to spare the infants. Edith was speechless. Every time I close my eyes, I hear their screams, and I see the elders who raised me burning alive. But it's not their fault. It's mine. I fell in love with a conniving snake. When she stabbed me in the heart, she would have gone deeper, ending my life then and there. He became colder. Layla always preferred peace over war and violence. After hearing what the Thusians did to Ghost and his people, she didn't think the Thusians deserved peace. You are no different than the soldiers who massacred my people. In fact, you're the worst. Michael's words were as cold as a dagger. For the first time, Michael felt disgusted just by looking at Edith. You knew everything, and you still think Thusia is better. If I am evil for killing scum like Thusians, what should I call you for sympathizing and supporting mass murderers? You can call me whatever you want. But this war will only lead to the destruction of countless lives. Michael burst into laughter. In my life, I have never met such a hypocritical girl like you. Did you bother to tell your friend this? Are you kidding me right now? But suddenly, his smile disappeared. He slightly leaned forward. The reason you're not dead is because of her. Michael pointed at Layla. As much as I want to end your life, I am not going. As long as you don't get in my way, I will ignore your existence. I don't give a flying fuck about what the reason behind what they did to my people was. This war will happen. And when I am done, Thusia will become history. a dark page in the history, Edith shivered, listening to him. Even Layla felt a chill running down her spine. Any oblivious man could tell there was no stopping Ghost from fighting Wuxia. The battle between Wuxia and Ghost could end only in one way, death of one. Without the Council of Immortals or any rogue immortals of the Great Eight clans to stop him, he was nearly unstoppable. What about the people in Wuxia? Are you going to kill them too? Asked Edith. If they stand in my way, I will slaughter them in a heartbeat. So you better make sure they don't. Edith and Layla were speechless. Layla knew Ghost was not a goody two-shoes, but she also never expected him to slaughter innocent people to get his revenge. Judging by his tone, he wasn't lying. He was willing to kill anyone without exception. His hatred toward Wuxia ran deep. Layla finally realized that. Tell that bitch her downfall is here. Michael rose from his chair. He didn't want to meet Layla again like this, but her naive sister made it this way. Without bothering to spend any second in their presence, Michael turned around to leave. I will stop you from hurting Vicky and her family, Ghost. One way or another, Michael heard Edith's words when he turned around. Humph, Michael snickered. I can kill you with a snap of my finger. So try to save yourself first. Michael walked away from them, snapping his fingers continuously. Every time he snapped, Layla's heart skipped a beat. She was afraid one of them could end Edith's life. Edith and Layla remained still. Eventually, Edith snapped out of her deep train of thought. There is only one way to stop him, said Edith as Layla slowly turned her head toward her. I am going to brand him as the Dark Lord and let the Guardian Guild take care of him. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 702. Let go of Ghost and become the Dark Lord. Michael used the runic teleportation to reach Big Bertha, anchored in the southern continent ocean. When he appeared in the captain's cabin, he was welcomed by Corey and Eladir. Are the ships ready? Asked Michael. Since he was in his Dark Lord persona, his voice was thick and demonic. Yes, my lord, Corey bowed. Michael quickly flicked his wrist as several golden scrolls appeared on the table between them. Give them to the crew. After launching an attack on the port, they should immediately use these scrolls to get the hell out of there. They will sink their ships, said Michael. He didn't want the pirate crew to lose their lives unnecessarily. That was the reason he spent badass points to buy teleportation scrolls for them. However, the same couldn't be said for the ships. They had to be sunk. 10 ships, waiting for your orders, my lord. But I still don't understand how we are going to sail to Azure in a few days. It'd take at least 4 months to reach there. That's if the wind was on our side. Corey furrowed her brows. Michael turned his gaze toward Eladir. With another flick, he retrieved another parchment. Unlike the teleportation scrolls, the scroll in Michael's hand was sky blue. It glistened in the candle lights. I think you can create this array. Michael tossed the parchment to Eladir. When the dark elf opened the scroll, he was stunned. His eyes glistened with surprise. This is... Eladir's voice trailed off. Follow the steps and create the array. It's only one way, so it shouldn't be too difficult for you. Eladir was still in shock. He had never seen such an elegant array design in his life. Furthermore, the array was extremely advanced in nature. Judging by the runes, Eladir could tell the array worked using the arch-energy crystals. He wondered where did the Dark Lord get this array from. Did he design it by himself? Eladir asked himself. The Dark Lord was a terrifying existence. In a short amount of time, he had seen the Dark Lord perform several miracle-like feats. Give me a day, and I'll be ready, Eladir finally said. Corey, put your most loyal men. I don't want any of them to breathe a damn word about this. After teleporting from the ships, this attack didn't happen. Got it? Yes, my lord. Corey bowed before leaving the room. After she left the room, Michael removed his mask, revealing his real face. Sit, Michael gestured at Eladir to take the seat before him. Seeing the grave look on his face, Eladir sat before him. He could tell the Dark Lord was going to ask him something. Sometimes, Eladir felt pity for the Dark Lord. With his talents, he could have lived a lavish life to the fullest. Yet because of the Sky Hall and a prophecy, the Dark Lord had lost everything. The weight on the Dark Lord's shoulder was tremendous. Anyone else would have been broken by the pressure but not him. What is it? Asked Eladir. That obvious, huh? Michael let out a tired smile. Eladir nodded. Anyone could tell he was worried by the look in his eyes. Do you think letting go Ghost, and embracing the Dark Lord completely is a good move? Eladir took a deep breath. He took several long moments to think about it. Silence fell over the room. Yes, finally, after long deep pondering, Eladir nodded. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed. Sooner or later, you have to accept who you truly are, my lord. You are not mortal ghost. You're a god. You are the Dark Lord. The prophecy cannot dictate what you do, you can change it. But you cannot change who you are. The sooner you fully embrace the real you, the better. After all, living two lives and keeping your identities separated is taking a toll on you. I can see that, explained Eladir. I have a feeling this war is going to reveal who I am to the outside world, then it's going to happen, my lord. As I said, you're God. So it's only natural you possess some kind of ability to foresee the future, Michael nodded. Eladir's words made sense. His instincts always kept him out of trouble, even in the worst of situations. I only fear those people who helped me, Eladir. When the world learns Ghost is the Dark Lord, I don't want those innocent people to pay the price for helping me. If that's what's making you worry, don't. The Sky Hall or the Guardians won't go after them. Of course, they will interrogate them using truth pills, but that's a good thing. They didn't know Ghost was the Dark Lord. So they will pass the truth pill test. I know them better than anyone, my lord. They are the good guys, right? How could they punish people who didn't know anything? Besides, Andreas and Wulfric won't let innocent people suffer because of you. Eladir's words somewhat calmed Michael's mind. He heaved a sigh of relief. Finish the array, Eladir. After this war, we may have to face our enemies head-on. Michael rose from his throne, heavily exhaling. A few hours ago, Gaia reached the outskirts of the Kane family castle. She saw several guards patrolling the area despite the heavy snowfall. The snow was up to their knees. Yet the poor soldiers had to walk through the ice in the cold. Gaia landed at the front gates instead of flying past them. She didn't want the defensive arrays to create an alarm. Miss Elia, the two soldiers guarding the metal gate, immediately recognized her. They bowed with eyes full of respect. This chapter upload first at Novel Next. Is Elder Ashton Kane inside? Asked Gaia as the soldiers opened the gate. For more chapters, please visit pan0vid.l.com. Yes. Please follow me. One soldier gestured at Gaia to follow him. After entering the castle, several elders greeted her. By now, the news of Michael reaching the half-immortal stage had spread across all Elon. Anyone who was friendly with Ghost got a huge boost in respect they received from the others. The Kane family benefited from Michael's breakthrough more than him. Due to their relationship with Ghost, all their rivals, including the Fisher family, backed away from any rival territories. Some families even tried to become allies of the Kane family so they could escape being wiped out by the half-immortal Ghost. The elders of the Kane family immediately led Gaia to their guest room. They politely asked her to wait till they sent Elder Ashton Kane to meet her. Gaia sat on her chair with one leg atop one like a queen. How may I address you now? Gaia turned her head to see Ashton Kane walking into the room. He dismissed the guards behind him with a wave of his hand. "It depends," said Gaia. "Depends on what?" asked Ashton Kane while taking his seat a couple of meters away from Gaia. "Depends on what you know about Adelia Ashton." As soon as Gaia asked this question, the calm smile on Ashton's face froze. Shock and surprise glistened in his hazel eyes. His silence revealed the fact he knew something about her mother. Gaia pressed him further. "What do you know about the Queen of Nagaland?" Gaia rose from her chair. Unlike a few months ago, Ashton Kane was not the strong one in the room. Gaia had reached fusion stage level 10. Coupled with the first energy coursing through her veins, she could easily slaughter Ashton Kane if she wished to. After all, he was only at fusion stage level 5. As she walked toward him, the temperature in the room fell by several degrees. "I know she teleported here. Is it a coincidence you and she share the same name, Ashton?" "I don't think so. This chapter upload first at Novelbin." Ned Ashton Kane felt the air around him becoming thick. Breathing became harder as she moved closer. "Tell me, Elder Kane." "I don't want to hurt you," said Gaia. The Kane family elders were their allies. That was the sole reason Gaia was asking instead of torturing Ashton Kane. "You can kill me. But you won't get anything about her," Ashton Kane growled. "If you care about her, you have to tell me everything you know." Gaia grabbed Ashton by his shoulder and lifted him up. "Why? Why do you care?" asked Elder Kane. Instead of an answer, he saw Gaia's pupil transform into a cobra's. Her snake-like eyes turned predatory. Ashton Kane's heart skipped a beat. Not because of the sudden change in her eyes but because he had seen these eyes before. "Adelia," Ashton Kane mumbled. Gaia released his shoulder in shock. You are her daughter, Gaia." Ashton Kane realized the truth. Although her face was nothing like he had seen in the portraits, those eyes were undoubtedly Adelia's. Ashton's eyes welled up as he was searching for Gaia for years. "Yes." Gaia took a deep breath before removing the mask from her face. She revealed her real face. "I am Gaia Ashton." The Princess of Nagaland. Ashton Kane stumbled back in utter shock. He couldn't believe what he was searching for was in front of him all this time. Seeing the tears rolling out of his eyes surprised Gaia. It symbolized the strong connection he shared with her mother. Gaia wondered who he was to Adelia. "My mother is in trouble. You have to help me find her." Pa N Dan 0 Vel. C0M. "I know. Follow me." Ashton Kane wiped off the tears from his face and gestured at Gaia to follow him. She nodded as she followed him behind to another room. He flicked his wrist, forming a translucent shield around them so no one could eavesdrop. "I can't believe it's you." Ashton Kane closed the curtains, talking to Gaia. "The last time I saw you, you were so little." The room grew darker, but Ashton quickly lit up the candles. Gaia noticed a great concern in his eyes. "Who else knows about your identity?" "Ghost." "He knows." Gaia nodded. "Do you trust him?" "With my life." "Now it's your turn to answer my questions. What do you know about my mother? Do you know where I can find her?" "I don't know where she is. But I can tell you how to find her." The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 703, Gaia's Real Father. How? Gaia almost immediately asked Ashton Kane. "Before I answer that, I need to know how you regained your ability to cultivate again." "When I went to Nagaland, they said Zanali broke your meridians." "Ghost cured me," answered Gaia. "So he knows the real you." Gaia nodded. "Don't only be a couple. Be best friends. That's what makes your life worth living," said Ashton. Gaia noticed a tinge of sadness in his eyes. "Is that what you and my mother are?" Best friends. Ashton Kane sighed. We grew up together. Can you believe it? Ashton Kane let out a miserable chuckle. Gaia's eyes went wide in shock. Her mother was not only a Naga but also a royal. She wondered how a human like Ashton Kane ended up growing up together with her mother. According to her memories, her mother always talked down on humans to the point Gaia thought she hated them. I was a commoner, and your mother was the princess. But she was not like the other Nagas, you know. She was different. Granted, she was as cruel and ruthless as they come, but to me, she was kind, playful, and my best friend. Ashton began to recall his childhood with Adelia. Gaia listened to him in complete shock. Her mother was not any one of those things. Yet, she couldn't see any signs of Ashton lying either. Every night, she sneaks out from the castle to hang out with me. I still remember the answer she gave me when I asked why she picked me as her friend. She just shrugged and told me it feels right. Ashton smiled, reliving his memories with Adelia. His hazel eyes welled up. There was not a single day he didn't miss her dearly. My mother sneaks out of the castle. Are you kidding me? Ashton shook his head, laughing. She was not always the Adelia, you know. She and I used to prank the kids. She turns into her Naga form, a black cobra with golden stripes. Gaia was once again surprised by Ashton. Adelia's Naga form was one of the Nagaland secrets, yet Ashton described it perfectly. This meant he really did see Adelia in her Naga form. If her mother let Ashton see her real form, that meant she really trusted him. We scare the kids and laugh at them running to their mothers. It never got tiring. After we grew up, we pretended to be adventurers and fought the beasts in the nearby forests. But one day, everything changed. Your grandma died trying to reach the half-immortal stage. I heard about that. But why did you say everything changed? Asked Gaia. After your grandma died, your mother changed. It was like a great burden was put on her shoulder. She was never the same again. Gaia immediately recalled what Elidor told her when they first met him in the Akilan realm. Gaia's bloodline served the order. Their real last name was Wraiths. According to Eldari, wherever a Wraith dies, the knowledge and their duty to the Order and the Dark Lord would be passed to the next of kin. It made sense that Adelia felt burned after her mother died. No matter how many times I asked her, she wouldn't tell me. After some time, she used her contacts in Elan and changed my name from Patrick to Ashton. I became Ashton and joined the Kane family. Because of what Adelia gave me, I was able to break through faster than the others. As a result, I became the Elder Kane. Tell me you met my mother after. Not quite. This chapter upload daily at Novel Next. Calm Ashton sighed. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Calm to experience faster update speed. She met me, with you in her arms. Gaia creased her brows. What about my father? When Gaia asked this question, Ashton became silent. His eerie silence churned a bad feeling in Gaia's gut. This was 2 months before your mother was married to Castiel. Gaia's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. That day, you and your mother were covered in blood. That stubborn bastard didn't tell me what happened. But something bad happened, that was for sure. Your mother hid you, and in 2 months, she married Castiel. After 10 months, they announced you were born. Your mother must have put a spell on you to keep you from growing up. Did I born to my mother in Castiel? With a heavy heart, Gaia asked the question. Her voice trembled. I fear not. Ashton's answer shattered Gaia's entire world. She felt the world around her spinning. Her whole life, she had believed Castiel was her father. But if Castiel wasn't her father, then who was? The question wreaked havoc in her mind. Who is my father? Only your mother can give you the answer, Ashton Kane sighed. Tell me, how do I find my mother? Ashton opened his mouth and was about to answer Gaia when someone knocked on the door. My lord, it's important, a gentle voice appeared from the other side of the door. Ashton furrowed his brows. It can wait a little bit longer, Ashton's tone oozed with anger. Please, my lord. You have to hear me out, Ashton banged the chair's hand. Gaia sensed a body refining stage cultivator outside. She just thought it was a maid. However, Gaia wanted to get the answer to her question first. Unfortunately, Ashton Kane was already at the door. The door slowly creaked open. What? Ashton growled. But his growl turned into a gasp. He clenched his throat as he stumbled back. Gaia was stunned. Everything happened so quickly. To her shock, there was no one outside the door. She dashed at Ashton Kane, who collapsed to the ground, holding his throat. Blood spurted out of Ashton's throat. His body twitched. Gaia immediately poured the healing potion down his throat, but the wound that should have been closed didn't. She took Ashton's head on her lap as he touched her face with his blood-soaked hand. Tears rolled out of his eyes. A pained smile appeared on his face. The Dark Lord has to reveal himself. He could barely utter these words through his slashed throat. In public, his real identity, then. Your mother will find you. The light of life slowly faded away from his eyes. Gaia frantically looked around to find the one who was responsible for this. Tell Adelia, I never stopped searching for her. Ashton Kane's hand dropped to the ground as his breathing finally stopped. Gaia's mind went completely blank. She couldn't think straight. But she could hear several footsteps rushing toward her. She had only a few seconds to react. If the elders of the Kane family saw her like this, they would definitely think she killed Elder Ashton Kane. That would turn them against Ghost and her. Whoever killed Ashton wanted that to happen, and Gaia had a few seconds to prevent that. She quickly retrieved a dagger from her space ring and stabbed herself in the chest. Blood sprayed out of her chest, turning her white dress red. She threw the healing potion on the ground as the glass veil shattered into pieces. The blood loss made her vision blurry. Before falling down beside Ashton Kane, she put the dagger into the interlinked space ring to send the bloody dagger to Michael. What happened? Elder Kane. Healers. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net, call the healers. Oh my god. Several people shouted. Gaia couldn't see their faces but heard them clearly. They rushed at them. Elder Kane, he is dead, Miss Elia. Quick, she is alive. Gaia's vision finally turned completely black. The Kane family soldiers quickly carried her to the healers themselves. If Gaia were holding Elder Kane on her lap, they would have mistaken her for the killer. Her quick thinking changed that. She plunged the dagger right through the left side of her chest, barely missing the heart. Therefore, the healers or the Kane family members wouldn't even imagine Gaia stabbing herself. A few hours later, Gaia slowly opened her eyes. When her vision cleared, she saw Michael sitting beside her on the bed. She slowly rose up. Easy there, Michael wrapped his hand around her shoulder, helping her up. Gaia noticed several Kane family elders, all new faces staring at her. Elder Kane, Gaia mumbled. He's not with us anymore, Michael softly said. Master Ghost, an ashen-haired man in his middle age, stepped forward. He had the demeanor of a warrior and a leader. Judging by the fancy robes he was wearing, anyone could tell he was of a higher status than the rest. Please, we need to know who killed Elder Kane, the man growled. He was the house head, Leonard Kane. An assassin, said Gaia. Several elders gasped in shock. They couldn't believe an assassin had made his way into the castle, killed Elder Kane, and escaped the castle undetected. Seeing Leonard frowning, Michael raised his brow. What were the guards doing? Michael's cold voice sent shivers down their spines. Can you tell us what you and Elder Kane were talking about? Leonard asked Gaia. It was obvious Leonard had some doubts about Gaia. Michael could see it in his eyes. The only reason they were having a conversation instead of a battle was Michael's half-immortal cultivation stage. Gaia looked around as though she couldn't speak in front of all these people. Deep down, she quickly fabricated a believable story. You can trust them, said Leonard. Elder Kane was asking me to find the traitor among your family. She dropped a shock bomb on them. Not a single one who heard her remained calm. He believed the Kane family was infiltrated. He said he had a list of suspects he wanted me and Ghost to check on. He couldn't trust anyone here. To Michael's surprise, Leonard seemed to have completely believed her made-up story. He watched what happened through the spider on Gaia's necklace. But judging by Leonard's look, the Kane family might really have a spy among them. Did he tell you where this list is? He was about to when someone knocked on the door. He went to check. Everything happened so quickly. The assassin was too fast. Until she got hurt, a mole among you wasn't my business. But now it is. Lord Leonard, did you know about this? Asked Michael. Everyone, clear the room, Leonard ordered the elders. The elders seemed a bit reluctant, but ultimately, they left the room. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 704, Everything leads to Adelia. Ashton Leonard sighed. Fear and shock glimmered in his eyes. It had been several months since he first heard someone dangerous had infiltrated the Kane family. He had been searching for the infiltrator ever since tirelessly. Yet, he found no clue. It was surprising and shocking at the same time to know Elder Kane was also searching for the infiltrator. On the other hand, Michael couldn't believe the made-up story Gaia threw up turned out to be true. I've known for a while, said Leonard. Elder Kane was a fusion stage cultivator. By how she described it, the infiltrator must be stronger than him. Besides, he was able to disappear without a trace. If he didn't stab her, you would have doubted her, right? Asked Michael. Leonard remained silent for a moment. The silence was enough for Michael. He rose from the side of Gaia's bed and walked toward Leonard. Show me where he was killed. Believe it or not, Elder Kane was a friend. I will help you avenge him by finding his killer. Lead the way. Michael gestured at Leonard to lead the way. Seeing no other option, Leonard led them to the place where they found Elder Kane dead. Although he doubted Elia's story, if there was a slim chance Ghost could find the infiltrator, Leonard wanted to take it. The infiltrator had killed one of the strongest members of the Kane family. If he could kill him so easily, none of the others would be safe anymore. Gaia followed Michael and Leonard. She recalled every single word Elder Ashton Kane said to her. Little by little, everything made more sense to her. She always wondered why Castiel loved Zenali more than her. Now it was clear to Gaia. Zenali was his real daughter, not her. That was why he gave the throne to Zenali instead of her. Did he know? Gaia asked herself. She wondered whether Castiel knew she wasn't his daughter or not all this time. The hallways were riddled with Kane family guards. Everyone looked terrified, especially the maids and servers. Their faces were pale as paper. When they saw Leonard, they bowed with respect and a tinge of fear in their eyes. Michael silently followed Leonard to Ashton Kane's room. To Michael's surprise, the hallway and the room were empty. I ordered no one to return to this place after taking his body away, Leonard said. The death of Elder Kane extremely saddened him. Michael squatted beside the puddle of dried blood. Then, with a flick of his wrist, he conjured a violet orb of light. Strangely, the moment the light fell on the ground, Leonard saw several footsteps. A bunch of footsteps was clustered around the blood. I assume no one can teleport in or out of the castle, said Michael. Leonard nodded, yes. We have protection runes all over the castle. It's not possible to use teleportation within these castle walls. Michael expected this. He doubted whoever killed Ashton could have teleported. It was not like he had a system at his disposal. Among the cluttered footsteps, Michael noticed a distinct set of footsteps. Unlike the others, this footprint had toes. It was clear that they didn't wear any boots or shoes. You see that? Michael asked Leonard. Why would anyone avoid wearing boots in weather like this? Michael followed the footsteps. These footsteps came and went in the same direction. Leonard and Gaia followed Michael behind. While following the footsteps through the hallway, Michael noticed strange behavior. Wherever there was a window, the footsteps moved away from it as though the person was afraid of windows. Everything started to make more sense to both Michael and Gaia. They followed these footsteps to the hall where many elders and soldiers gathered. What's happening? What is that light? Look at the footsteps, the people gathered around the hall mumbled. When they saw Leonard, they became silent. Thanks to Michael's acute vision, the footprints on the hall didn't confuse him. He was able to follow his target without a hitch. He continued to follow the footsteps out of the hall into another hallway. Where was he going? Asked Gaia. Leonard slightly shivered. Surprisingly, there were no other footprints in this hallway dimly lit by chandeliers. They followed the footsteps until they came in front of a fireplace. The footsteps, however, went into the fireplace, which meant there was a secret passageway behind this fireplace. Michael turned around. Lord Leonard, Michael looked at Leonard. Judging by the dark lines on his forehead, it was obvious not many people knew about this passageway. In other words, whoever killed Ashton knew more about the castle than most of the Kane family members. Not many knew about this, did they? Asked Michael. It took a few moments for Leonard to snap out of his deep thoughts and nod. The cat's out of the bag, Lord Leonard. Where does it end? Said Michael. This passageway will lead you to a small fishing island nearby, said Leonard. I made your job simple, Lord Leonard. Hey Race, how we find the killer? It's highly unlikely he suddenly appeared in the castle and knew about every secret entrance and passageway. On the contrary, he must have spent years here, said Michael as Leonard pushed a brick into the wall. The wall slowly creaked, revealing an opening big enough for a grown man to squeeze through. Gaia entered the passageway first, followed by Michael and Leonard. They continued to follow the footsteps. For more chapters, please visit. The first way to find the killer is if he chooses to return to the castle. I will give you a rune to match a footprint with the one here. When you place this rune on a person, if their footprint matches the one here, it will let out a jade light. Otherwise red. Simple enough. Michael said while following the footsteps. The passageway was dark. Except for the violet light, there was no light source, not even torches. Leonard nodded as Michael continued. There is a good chance he lived among you. So make a list of everyone who knew about this passage. If the killer chooses not to return, summon everyone on the list. Whoever is missing will be your suspect. What if he wasn't an elder but somehow knew about the passageway? Asked Leonard. I'd hope it didn't come to that, Michael sighed. Why? Asked Leonard. Connect the dots, Lord Leonard. Elder Kane was a fusion stage cultivator, but the killer ended his life in a few seconds. He escaped before she could even see his face. We saw the footsteps avoiding the windows. Why? Leonard did not know the answer. The killer was avoiding the sunlight, and who avoids sunlight? Vampires. Leonard halted his steps. His entire body trembled. Shock and disbelief emerged in his eyes. No, it can't. Are you saying a vampire killed him? No offense, Master Ghost, but this is far-fetched, is it? The Guardian Guild's been hiding the fact that vampires are among us forever. If Elder Cain had found out, they would have killed him to keep their existence among you dark. And don't let these footsteps fool you, Lord Leonard. You might see normal footsteps and think they walked or ran, but in reality, you can't even see when they move. Those bastards are fast, really fast, said Michael. He resumed following the footsteps. He gave Leonard some time to think about everything. Unlike Michael, Leonard and ordinary people were terrified of the vampires. The vampires were nearly impossible to kill without godly skills or a primordial flame. Michael doubted anyone in the Cain family had either. A single vampire could decimate the entire Cain family. Leonard was right to panic and sweat. Let's say you're right. What should we do next? Asked Leonard after long minutes of deep thinking. Nothing, and pretend like you know nothing about them. You will be the next to go if they suspect you know something. So pick a scapegoat and kill him in front of all the family members. Tell him he was the traitor. I'd recommend you go with a corrupted son of a bitch with various criminal activities, you know, for the clear conscience's sake. But what about the killer? I want that dog killed and hanged for killing Elder Cain, trust me. He will be, Michael growled. Although the killer did not lay a finger on Gaia, he killed Elder Cain, a friend of Gaia's mother. Moreover, the man had answers, and now, they had no way to get them. The more they learn about Adelia, the closer they get to these vampires. Michael wondered what the connection was between Adelia and the vampires. Gaia remained silent all the way. She was in deep thought. After learning the truth about her father, she was speechless. Eventually, they came to the end of the tunnel. As Lord Leonard said, they stepped onto a small fishing island. Unfortunately, the footsteps disappeared. Because it was winter and night, there was no one outside. All Michael could see were fishing nets, poles, empty baskets, and a frozen lake. Lord Leonard, Michael turned his gaze toward Leonard. I said everything I wanted. But at the end of the day, it's your decision. Make a wise one. I will honor Elder Cain when I finish everything I must. Michael patted Leonard on the shoulder before ascending to the air with Gaia. In a blink of an eye, Leonard saw Michael and Gaia disappear, leaving a trail of golden lightning. Michael, I know everything. Michael stopped flying above the clouds. He gently cupped Gaia's face. Finding your mother will answer every question you have, said Michael. But Ashton, he said the way is for the Dark Lord to reveal his identity, Gaia stuttered. She couldn't ask him to reveal his identity to the outside world. It'd put a target on his back and end his life. Gaia simply couldn't do it. Michael just smiled. It's okay. Didn't I promise I would help you find your mother? Now my job has become easier. Gaia's eyes welled up. He leaned forward, gently kissing her on the forehead. This chapter upload daily at Novel Next. Nothing will happen to your mother or me. It's me you're talking about. Not to rub it on your face, but I am a god, and gods cannot be killed, Michael said with a playful tone to make her smile. What about the god-killing arrows, huh? Don't be too haughty. We still have no clue what those are, she purred. And who has the answer to that question? Your mother. Everything leads to Adelia Ashton. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 705, Attack on the Golden Port. After leaving Cain Castle, Michael came directly to the southern continent. He spent a day meditating. Meanwhile, Eladir was completely drowned in creating a teleportation array. Corey helped him with supplying the required arch-energy crystals. Surprisingly, Eladir and Corey became closer than anyone would expect. At first, Eladir was annoyed by her curiosity. But, after spending a few hours, he found out that he liked explaining how the runes and arrays worked. Once they became close, they both lost track of time. When the sun rose the next day, a 5-meter radius chakra glowed on the surface of the blue ocean. Corey and Eladir watched their handiwork from the upper deck of a frigate. "You can now contact the Dark Lord," said Eladir. Although he didn't show any expression, he was extremely proud of his work. "Shouldn't we check if it's working first?" asked Corey. Eladir chuckled. "It'll work," his eyes brimmed with confidence. Following his answer, Corey did not question him. Instead, he contacted the Dark Lord. "My lord, the array is ready, gather the attack team," she heard the Dark Lord's words in her head. It took Corey almost 30 minutes to bring all the ships together. Finally, she ordered the crews to board the leading frigate. As they were waiting for the Dark Lord, he appeared out of nowhere with the Dark Queen. "My lord," all of them bowed their heads. Some had fear, and some had absolute reverence in their eyes. "You explained the plan to them?" Michael asked Corey. "Yes, my lord," she nodded. "I will go through it again, just to be safe," said Michael. His gaze swept across the crew. They planned to send 8 ships to attack. Since they were not going to sail back to the southern continent, Michael ordered Corey to put the least crew possible in each ship. Hence, the total number of crews in this operation was 96. 12 crew members for each ship. "Listen, you will all be teleported to the Azure continent. Your target is Golden Port." The crew members gasped in shock when they heard they would be teleported. These simpletons had never experienced teleportation or any magic in their life. They only heard about it. "Your mission is simple. When you see the port, fire the cannons but do not sink any ships docked there. When you fire several volleys of cannonballs, the Golden Port Naval Army will arrive. Fire at them and use the teleportation scrolls given to you. Unless you want to get sunk with the ships, don't try to be a hero." The pirates bobbed their heads up and down. "Now go have fun," Michael dismissed the crew. After the pirates left the ship, Corey looked at Michael for her next order. "Assemble our fleet and tell them to be ready. We will go to war any second from now on." "You will know the details later, as you wish, my lord." "Any problem building the mortars?" asked Michael. After fitting Big Bertha with mortar, Michael ordered Corey to build more mortars and fit them in every ship in his fleet. He was still thinking of a way to improve the mortar in Big Bertha. He wanted it to be the best of the best. After the Thusian War, Michael decided to spend his time improving Big Bertha in every way possible. Only one thing stood between him and upgrading the ships to their full potential and beyond: the blacksmith trait. Just a few hiccups in procuring the materials. "Other than that, everything is going smoothly, my lord. Coordinate with the twins and let them get the materials." "Already talked to them, my lord." Michael was pleased by her answer. Corey was taking the initiative as he told his subordinates to. Once he finished his war, he could finally focus on making them stronger. The cosmic stream would help him achieve his goal. "Good," Michael patted her on the shoulder. Excitement coursed through her veins. After dismissing Corey, Michael, Eladir, and Gaia leaned on the rails, taking a look at the glowing array on the ocean. "Gaia, go to the Golden Port with Nightmare and wreak havoc," Michael reminded Gaia of her part in the plan. Their plan was to bring out the Thusian naval army instead of a fusion stage cultivator. If the Golden Port dispatched one to take care of the pirate ships instead of their warships, this plan would fall apart. Hence, Michael decided to send Gaia and Nightmare. This way, even if the Golden Port dispatched a fusion stage cultivator, he or she would be occupied with Gaia and Nightmare. The Thusians would be forced to bring out their warships at that time. Once Michael had learned where the warships were coming from, he could destroy them and ensure his victory in a naval war between Thusia and him. "Meet you there," Gaia nodded as she disappeared from their sight. "You're doing this, huh?" said Eladir. "Yes, but before that, I have to go meet Mugashuku. Why? Aladir creased his brows. He couldn't think of a reason why the Dark Lord wanted to meet the dormant Hydra in Stormville Mountain. Why would anyone want to meet that terrifying existence? Aladir questioned himself. For now, the southern continent is his world. We need his support and permission to claim it as ours, said Michael. In other words, Michael wanted Mugashuku's backing against the Sky Hall. After revealing himself as the Dark Lord, the Sky Hall would finally make their move and bring the full wrath of the place down on Michael. To survive this, Michael needed to fall back to the southern continent. Michael doubted the Sky Hall would dare to piss off something that could end this world in a few hours. Unfortunately, Michael had to spend almost all the badass points he received by slaughtering the Thusians to find the Queen's soul piece's location. Nevertheless, he hoped it was enough to get Mugashuku's backing. An hour later, Yagner, General Bryce, and Prince Devarius were waiting for Ghost on the outskirts of Golden Port. The Golden Port was built on the banks of a carefully crafted harbor. It was truly a fully modernized trade center. Its allure was matched by the backdrop of an elegant dockyard and forest of colorful maple trees. Unfortunately, the snow blanketed the city and ruined the colors with its puffy white. But when spring arrives, the Golden Port would be a marvelous sight to behold. The total trade of Thusia happened through the Golden Port. Despite the winter, countless merchant ships arrived at the port to import and export goods. I see everyone's here, Yagner's body jerked in shock. They turned around to see Ghost flying toward them. They gathered above the clouds to discuss their plans. You guys picked who's going to board the Thusian ships? Asked Michael as they all nodded. Good. The attack ships will arrive when we say so. They still couldn't believe Michael that he had a fleet. Moreover, as far as they could, there was no single ship on the horizon. So they wondered how these ships would arrive when they gave the order. But they didn't question Michael. Shall we start the attack? Asked Michael. Yagner took a deep breath. General Bryce sighed and looked like he couldn't wait to get this over with, while Devarius seemed excited. I want to see the ships you told us about, said Devarius. Send them in. The trio saw Ghost placing his hand on an ear and talking. They wondered who he was talking to. But to their shock, they saw ships appear out of nowhere on the horizon. It was too shocking. The trio slowly flew forward to take a closer look at the ships. They couldn't believe their eyes. Where did they? General Bryce's eyes went wide. You teleported them here. Yagner was an orc. So he was familiar with teleportation more than the others. So when the ships appeared out of thin air, he realized that Ghost had teleported the ships from somewhere to here. The cannons fired with a thunderous roar. Fire and smoke gushed out of the cannons as they rained down cannonballs upon the Golden Port. Michael noticed the people carrying on with their daily lives on the port, screaming and shouting. They dropped everything they were carrying and ran away as fast as possible. In a few seconds, the calm atmosphere in the Golden Port was completely thrown into chaos. Several armed soldiers rushed toward the port. As Michael instructed, the pirate crew didn't aim for the merchant ships docked at the port but just close enough to think they were attacking the ships. The Thusian soldiers were in utter shock. The attack was so sudden. Some of them flew away to inform the Golden Port Duke. As the city was getting bombarded by pirate ships, Yagner noticed a large shadow in the sky. The clouds quickly dissipated. Soon, they saw Nightmare soaring through the clouds in his true form. Nightmare circled around them before diving down to rain down fire. The pirates stopped firing the cannons for a moment in utter shock. They were startled by the appearance of a dragon. Tell them it's friendly. Michael contacted Corey and conveyed the message to the pirates. Even from a distance, he could see the pirates scared shitless. They shivered uncontrollably. Nightmare's terrifying roar echoed through the air. The people screamed as loud as they could before running deeper into the city away from the port. Where are you hiding your ships, Maxim? Michael mumbled. His gaze swept across the golden port. To this moment, he hadn't seen a single warship of Wuxia. Instead, he heard another mighty roar. Michael's gaze immediately turned in the roar's direction. To his shock, he saw another large shadow in the clouds above Nightmare. It was a dragon, only thrice the size of Nightmare. Michael immediately sensed a threat. The dragon above Nightmare was a fusion stage beast. He was about to fly toward Nightmare when a giant mouth filled with razor-sharp teeth came down through the clouds to bite off Nightmare's head. But a powerful blast of wind pushed the dragon away from Nightmare. Instead, Michael saw Gaia standing atop Nightmare. The hostile dragon roared as the battle between Gaia and a royal dragon finally began in the skies of the Golden Port. Chapter 706, Thusian warship. Due to the cloudy sky and the misty air, no one was able to see the other dragon clearly. Except for Michael, they could barely see a silhouette of a dragon. But it changed when the dragon dived down through the clouds to attack Nightmare and Gaia. Michael noticed two bright amber eyes sit elegantly within the dragon's scaled, long skull, which gave it a fierce-looking appearance. Several enormous central horns sat atop its head, just above its narrow, angular ears. Several large fan-like skin and bone structures ran down the sides of each of its jaw lines. Its nose was small and had two long, curved nostrils, and there was a tendril on its chin. Several sharp teeth poked out from the side of its mouth, revealing only a fraction of the terror hiding inside. A muscular neck ran down from its head and into a massive body. The dragon was easily thrice the size of Nightmare. The top of its body was covered in narrow scales and rows of small spikes down its spine. The bottom was covered in wide scales, colored slightly lighter than the rest of its body. Four massive limbs carried its body and allowed the creature to stand arrogantly and sturdy. Massive wings grew starting from just below its shoulders and ending at its hips. The wings were bladed in structure, the skin of the wings seemed to glow as if made from the fire itself, and small, sharp tips grew from each ending like massive spears. Its thick tail ended in a hammer-like growth and was covered in the same narrow scales as its body. The dragon's scales had a tinge of golden and crimson red. The sheer size and the shining scales symbolized the dragon's race, a royal dragon. Even if Nightmare were at the fusion stage, it would stand no chance against this royal dragon. Its jaw was wide enough to slice Nightmare in half. Luckily, Nightmare had a backup. "Victoria, is this your pet?" Michael was amused. The poor dragon didn't seem to realize there was a half-immortal staring at him from a distance. As much as Michael wanted to slaughter the dragon, he hovered in the sky, doing nothing. He let Gaia and Nightmare fight the dragon for a change. The two dragons roared at each other. When they came face to face, the people on the ground felt a chill. Even Yagner, General Bryce, and Devarius trembled in fear. Nightmare and the royal dragon menacingly stared at each other. Nightmare bore his teeth. Despite the size and power, Nightmare didn't show any signs of fear in his eyes. But the royal dragon had a look of scorn. He looked down on Nightmare's forest dragon race. If the royal dragon was a noble, a forest dragon was the poorest of the commoners. "I don't care who you are or why you dared to attack Wuxia, but that will be your last mistake," the royal dragon growled. Its terrifying voice echoed through the sky. The pirates halted firing the cannons in utter shock. They did not want the dragon's attention. They thought Nightmare was the biggest, baddest dragon, but compared to the royal dragon, Nightmare was a puppy. "I will end you too and burn those scums alive," the royal dragon glanced at the pirate ships. "So there is no brain under that big skull of yours, huh?" Gaia ridiculed the royal dragon. "You dared to insult me." The royal dragon roared. "You fucking idiot, we dared to burn this place to the ground. Of course, I dare to insult an overgrown lizard like you. Didn't you get the memo? We waged war against your pathetic kingdom. It's payback time, bitch. The royal dragon's eyes literally lit up with flames. It roared and dashed at Nightmare. Regardless of its enormous size, the royal dragon was fast. However, Nightmare's smaller body gave him an edge. He was able to barrel roll and quickly go under the royal dragon. Boom! Gaia punched the royal dragon on its belly with enough force to create a thunderous shockwave. Her fist went numb as the royal dragon growled in pain. Using this opportunity, Nightmare breathed fire on the royal dragon. However, its scales were too tough for Nightmare's flames to burn it. Suddenly, the air around them became hotter. When Gaia looked at the royal dragon, she saw its belly beginning to glow. It's gonna breathe fire. Gaia quickly raised her arms as a thin jade energy shield formed around Nightmare. Avoid the dragon breath, she ordered Nightmare. No shit, Nightmare flapped his wings, increasing his speed. Meanwhile, the pirates resumed bombarding the port. Some of the merchant ships began to set sail away from the port. Finally, the royal dragon caught up with Nightmare and Gaia. It flew right above them. It opened its mouth wide as Gaia saw the inside of its mouth glowing like someone had set a fire inside. The temperature around them rose by several degrees. Gaia retaliated quickly by firing an arrow straight into the dragon's mouth. However, the heat inside the dragon's mouth melted the arrow like butter. I really thought that would work, Gaia growled as Nightmare flapped his wings harder than before. Immediately, he shot through the air, escaping the dragon's fire. From a distance, Michael saw a violet stream of fire shooting out of the dragon's mouth. Holy fuck, Devarius cursed. They could feel the intense heat from afar. Gaia frowned, pouring more energy into the shield. Yet, the shield kept flickering. If they had met the dragon breath head-on, the heat would have burnt their skin off. Gaia realized they couldn't drag the fight long. Where the fuck are those ships? General Bryce had lost his cool. Michael could have used the system to scan the area and find a pocket dimensions entrance. However, he used the majority of his badass points to find the Queen's soul piece's location. He was really lucky to find Mugashuku in a good mood. As a result, Mugashuku agreed to offer his protection as long as he found another soul piece within the next 6 months. Otherwise, Mugashuku would personally come to find Michael. That was its threat. The situation was making Michael lose his calm. Luckily, he saw a warship appear out of nowhere near the port. It was a man-o'-war, almost twice the size of Big Bertha. Look, Yagan pointed at the crimson-red painted ship. A loud roar from the ship reverberated through the sea. It slowly sailed toward the pirate ships. Fire at the man-o'-war and get the hell out of here, Michael ordered Corey. The pirates were really lucky they weren't inside the warship's firing range. Otherwise, a single volley of cannon fire from the ship could decimate all of them. As Michael ordered, the pirates quickly reloaded the cannons and fired at the man-of-war. Countless cannonballs soared through the sky, leaving a smoky trail. Sparks flew around them as they made an eerie buzzing sound. When they hit the man-o'-war's hull, they all heard a thunderous explosion. But the cannonballs barely made a dent in its hull. Meanwhile, the sky lit up with violet and red color. Both Nightmare and the Royal Dragon flew above the clouds fighting each other. Suddenly, Nightmare's roar echoed through the sky. Michael sensed a pain in its roar. Above the clouds, the dragon fire had scorched the side of Nightmare's belly. But despite the pain, Nightmare didn't slow down. Seeing the pain in Nightmare's eyes, Gaia's anger shot through the roof. She raised her bow as 4 arrows made of golden energy appeared in her hand. She knocked all of them, mumbling something under her breath. The royal dragon flew almost 20 meters away from them. The wind was violent enough to throw Nightmare off balance occasionally. Furthermore, the clouds obstructed her vision. Despite everything, Gaia took a deep breath and released the arrows. As soon as they shot out, the arrows created a sonic explosion in the air. Each of the 4 arrows grew in size, transforming into golden snakes in mid-air. Unlike traditional arrows that travel in a straight line, these snakes zigzagged, following the royal dragon. The royal dragon retaliated by breathing fire onto the golden snakes. Its violet flames melted 2 snakes, but it was too late to stop the remaining 2. They hit the royal dragon in the belly and in the back. The royal dragon screamed in pain as the arrows exploded when they penetrated the dragon's scales. On the sea, the man-o'-war prepared to fire its cannons. The sound of cannons cluttering traveled in the air. It was like thunder rumbling. A few moments later, the cannons fired, gushing out thick white smoke. The man-o'-war trembled at the aftershock. Michael saw countless cannonballs soar through the air toward the pirate ships. Michael felt pain seeing the pirate ships explode into pieces in a snap of time. Fire and wood splinters flew as black smoke rose from the ships. He hoped the pirates used the teleportation scroll to escape. Otherwise, there was no way they could survive the explosion. Michael expected the Thusian warships to be powerful, but the man-o'-war exceeded his expectation. His focus on the man-o' war got broken by the roar of the royal dragon. This time, the royal dragon roared in pain. Michael noticed several golden lights flickering above the clouds. He could tell Gaia was bombarding the royal dragon with arrows. Just like the warship exceeded Michael's expectations, the royal dragon also exceeded Gaia's initial estimation of its power. She had to take the fight seriously. Even with the combined force of Nightmare, the battle between them was at a stalemate. It's enough. Get out of there, Michael ordered Gaia through the earpiece. I am going on board. I hope your men will do the same, Michael said to the trio before dashing toward the man-o' war. While Michael was on his way to the warship, Gaia stood atop Nightmare. She took out the golden scroll. The royal dragon noticed the scroll. It opened its mouth to quickly breathe fire on them. Before it could happen, Gaia tore the scroll as a bright light enveloped them both. In a split second, they disappeared from the sky. Chapter 707. Incompetent spies. Michael dived into the sea instead of flying toward the warship. He soared through the water faster than any fish in the ocean, leaving a bubbly white trail. No one noticed Michael as they were all focused on the smoking debris on the ocean and the dragon in the sky. Everything was dark blue around Michael. Light barely managed to peek through the water. After a while, Michael noticed a giant shadow darkening the water. The closer he got to the warship, the brighter the rune on his palm glowed. Michael almost forgot about this rune. When he infiltrated Tenulia's flying warship in the southern continent, Elidor gave him this rune to avoid the defensive runes on the ship's surface. With this rune, he was able to get onto her ship without triggering any defensive arrays. When Michael appeared right under the man-o'-war, he grabbed the ship's bottom and hung onto it like a gecko on a wall. Thanks to his wind mastery, he formed a bubble around his head, enabling him to breathe underwater. The ship sailed slowly. Michael took a spider from the system's storage and let it climb up the ship. He wanted to see what was happening on the surface before making his move. Michael heard Gaia's voice in his head. We safely reached King Gunner's castle. How's it looking at your end? Can't talk. Underwater, don't get yourself killed out there, Gaia playfully chuckled. The spider crawled toward the ship's upper deck. The corner of his vision showed him what the spider was looking at. He noticed a tall, golden-haired man walking proudly on the upper deck with his hands behind his back. He looked as though the entire world belonged to him. He grinned at the sinking pirate ships on the horizon. Captain, we found these 2 sneaking around the port. The man slowly turned around to see the Thusian soldiers dragging 2 men. The 2 of them were dressed like commoners. Their faces were swollen and bleeding. It was obvious the Thusians roughed them up before dragging them here. Shit, they must be the other spies. Incompetent idiots, Michael growled. The only reason he let General Bryce, Yagner, and Devarius pick their own spies was to make them feel they had some level of control over the offense against Wuxia. He wondered where the third spy was. His pondering was quickly answered when another two Thusians dragged a dead body toward the ship captain. He tried to resist when we found him snooping near the harbor master's office. Captain, the golden-haired man tilted his head. He looked at the three for a few moments without uttering a single word. Did they tell you what they were doing? Asked the golden-haired man. Not a word, Captain, amateur spies. Michael was surprised by the man's intelligence. With a single question, he was able to tell they were spies. Not only that, he correctly identified them as amateurs. The captain looked at the bewildered faces of his men. If they were commoners, they would have pissed their pants. If they were good spies, they would have spun a believable story. Only amateurs do neither of those, said the man. I wonder what they were hoping to accomplish. He slowly made his way toward the spies. He lifted one's head. The way I see it, you have two choices. Answer my questions, get a quick death or resist, and I can make you wish for death. The spy spat on the captain's face without a second thought. Before even the blob of spit could hit the floor from the captain's face, the captain punched the spy right through the chest. Blood splattered across the wooden floor. The spy coughed up blood. Michael noticed the spy's beating heart in the captain's hands. The surrounding soldiers didn't look as shocked as one would expect. Why? Because they had seen too many cruel acts of their captain, and they themselves were capable of so many ruthless things. The captain crushed his teeth with a sickening crunch. Seeing the end of the spy, the one beside him trembled. So, how about you? The captain slowly wiped off the spit from his face and the blood on his hand on the spy's shoulder. I was ordered to infiltrate the ship under Prince Devarius' orders, the spy blabbered. Prince Devarius was captured, the captain said as the spy frantically shook his head. He was rescued. Now he is with General Bryce, General Yagner and... The captain squeezed the spy's shoulder. Ghost, the Thusian Alchemy Guild leader. The captain tilted his head. Michael witnessed the spy blabber everything from Michael's heavenly tribulation to rescuing Prince Devarius to taking over the cities conquered by the Thusians. The Thusian soldiers listened to his story, uttering no word. They all trembled in anger. Judging by the looks on their faces, if Michael appeared before them, they would fight to the death. What was your plan? Tell us in great detail please, and I will let you live. The spy's face brightened. A delighted smile emerged on his face. However, before he could open his mouth, the Thusians saw the spy tremble violently. A white form spurted out of his mouth. Blood seeped through every pore in his body. The Thusians were startled. The spy kept twitching until his body finally gave up. He's dead, but how? The captain rubbed his chin. None of them knew Michael used the spider to inject the spy with poison before he could blabber the plan. Activate the rune. We have to report this to General Booth, said the captain. The mere mention of the name made Michael's blood boil. That was the bastard who led the attack on the sanctuary, slaughtered everyone, and injured a brass soul piece. Michael restrained his anger. Finally, the soldiers ran into the captain's cabin. Realizing something was about to happen, Michael held on to the bottom tight. A few seconds later, the ship trembled. Michael sensed the space around him distorting. Soon, a golden layer of light enveloped the ship and Michael along with it. Since Michael was underwater, he didn't notice any changes in his surroundings. He sent another spider crawling above. Only then did he see the changes. The ship was floating on an endless ocean with countless other ships. As far as Michael could see, there was no land nearby. So this is where you keep your ships, huh? Time to get rid of them. Michael cracked his neck. He slowly swam above to reach the surface. Like an arrow, he shot out of the water, surprising the Thusians. "Captain, look. What the fuck? Who is that? Intruder." The Thusian soldiers panicked because of Michael's sudden appearance. Since they were in a pocket dimension, all the soldiers were clearly able to see Michael's half-immortal cultivation stage. The fearless Thusian naval army shuddered at the sigh of a half-immortal. The soul-refining stage captain slowly turned around. Fear and shock glimmered in his eyes. Speechless, Michael tilted his head. Surprisingly, Michael turned his back on the captain and his crew. He glanced over the ocean. "I don't think there are 1,500 ships here. Maximum, 700. Meanwhile, the soldiers fired a red orb of light into the sky. The light alerted all the other ships. Michael slowly turned around. His eyes turned pitch black as two dark beams shot out of his eyes. The two beams penetrated the captain's head and zigzagged throughout the upper deck, killing the 12 soldiers on it. Michael quickly bought a few crates of dynamites from the system store. They were powerful enough to destroy the ships if Michael placed them in certain places. For example, inside the cannons, and inside the lower deck. Of course, these ships were too big to make them explode. The point was to create a big enough hull, and the water would do the rest. Michael flew straight down to the hull cannons. With a snap, sparks flew out of his finger and lit the fuse of red dynamite in his hand. Michael simply threw it into the cannon tube. He moved on to another ship and did the same before killing the soldiers on the upper deck. "I need to get myself a new spell," Michael said to himself. His current arsenal of spells lacked a large-scale spell that could do mass destruction. It would take hours or days to destroy all these ships with dynamites. The soldiers prepared to bombard Michael with cannonballs. But they were put at a disadvantage when Michael flew high in the air. They couldn't aim the cannons at his height. He closed his eyes as countless golden lightning bolts crackled around his body. When he opened his eyes lit with dark flames. Michael dived down so fast that he left afterimages in the sky. The soldiers couldn't see him but only the continued explosions all around them. He substituted his lack of mass destruction spell with his speed. The soldiers opened fire, hoping it would hit Michael. Instead of Michael, they only hit the other ships. "Idiots," Michael snickered. He flew around, wreaking havoc among the ships until he sensed a powerful being in his environmental scanning. Suddenly, a red boulder hit Michael. Michael flung away in the air before finally regaining his balance. To his surprise, a monstrous red-skinned abomination with devilish wings hovered in the air several meters away from him. "Blood Prince, you became stronger," the Blood Prince growled. Unlike the first time Michael had met him, he could see the Blood Prince clearly in broad daylight. "You became a lackey of Maxim," responded Michael. The Blood Prince did not say anything for a few moments. "Tell me, where do I find more of these?" The Blood Prince tossed a glass vial with a few golden drops at the bottom of it. The last time Michael met the vampires, he gave this potion to Saber. Apparently, Saber used this potion which could make the vampire survive the sun for almost an hour on a vampire. But it became obvious that Saber didn't. Otherwise, the Blood Prince couldn't have used the potion. "That offer went out the window when you punched me," Michael cracked his neck. Chapter 708, Battle with the Blood Prince. The Blood Prince bore his long fangs at Michael. His red muscles bulged up as blue veins popped up under his skin. However, Michael did not bat an eye. Michael was at the half-immortal stage level 3, and the Blood Prince was at level 5. The dark flames were more than enough to substitute the two levels. "Once you're turned, you will tell us everything," the Blood Prince menacingly grinned. He quickly dashed at Michael in midair. He was almost as fast as Michael. The two of them clashed, flying higher and higher. The Blood Prince swung his fist left and right. Fortunately, Michael had the black shield. The Blood Prince's bulky fist hit the shield with a loud thud. His hands immediately went numb. Michael quickly retaliated by slamming the shield against the Blood Prince's face. The Blood Prince growled in anger. The Thujans all watched the battle in the air without batting an eye. But they all feared for their lives. The collateral damage of two half-immortals fighting would be terrifying. Even Michael was surprised. Every time he blocked the Blood Prince's punch with his shield, it created a shockwave powerful enough to create violent ripples in the sea beneath. The warships trembled as though there was an earthquake. The Blood Prince increased his speed even further. He repeatedly punched Michael with no finesse or technique. A single punch put Michael on a deathbed. However, that was when he was a fusion stage cultivator, and the Blood Prince ambushed Michael. This time, he blocked every pinch with his shield. In a minute of time, the shield had blocked almost 50 to 60 punches. Yet, the Blood Prince couldn't even put a dent in the shield. "I like this shield of yours," the Blood Prince licked his lips. Suddenly, he stopped punching and grabbed the shield with his two hands. Both of them pulled the shield toward them. Although the Blood Prince was taller and more muscular than Michael, he couldn't easily snatch the shield away from Michael. "You are strong," the Blood Prince growled. Instead of responding, Michael let go of one hand from the shield, raised it, and punched the Blood Prince right in the face. The punch's force sent the Blood Prince flying for a few meters. A tooth flew out of the vampire's mouth, along with blood and spit. Michael felt like he had hit a concrete wall. His hands were numb. The Blood Prince shook his head as his vision went blurry. Michael threw the shield at the Blood Prince. The shield cut through the air. Before the Blood Prince could react, the shield hit him in the face, breaking his nose with a sickening crunch. To the vampire's surprise, the shield took a U-turn and flew straight back to Michael's hands. A small silver rune glowed on Michael's palm and on the shield. It was a simple summoning rune yet efficient. Thanks to Aladir for putting the rune on the shield, Michael could summon the shield back to him after throwing it. He put the same rune on the Doombringer too. The Blood Prince was about to dash toward Michael again more ferociously when he threw the shield again. Just like before, the shield hit the Blood Prince and returned to him. He did this repeatedly until the Blood Prince managed to punch the shield before it could hit him again. The broken nose of the Blood Prince healed in a blink of an eye. "So how does it feel to be a lapdog of someone else?" asked Michael. The Blood Prince hovered in the air instead of dashing toward Michael. "I kill you, and he gives me something I want." "Simple transaction," growled the Blood Prince. Suddenly, Michael chuckled. "Something funny?" "Yeah. I just thought. You woke up from a long slumber and ended up working for a human. Even if you put a leech in a castle, it will always head for the nasty swamps," Michael riled up the Blood Prince. As he expected, the Blood Prince's eyes turned predatory. A red smoke radiated from his body. Slowly, the fangs grew in size, as well as the horns atop his head. Despite his transformation, Michael remained calm. The only change that happened with Michael was the dark flames enveloping his fists. The shield disappeared from his wrist. Michael cracked his knuckles. The moment the Blood Prince saw the flames, his eyes went wide. Primordial flames, the Blood Prince was shocked. The shock soon turned into fear. No matter how strong he was, a primordial flame was stronger. "You shouldn't have crossed me, bloodsucker," Michael snickered. The Blood Prince noticed a change in his voice. Furthermore, his eyes lit up with the same dark flames as on his fist. The dark beams shot out from Michael's eyes, aiming for the Blood Prince's chest. "Arg!" The Blood Prince roared in pain as the dark beams scorched his chest. They penetrated his steel-like skin several inches. His chest smoked. The smell of burning flesh filled the air. When the dark beams disappeared, the Blood Prince looked down at his chest. The two holes did not close up. For the first time, fear clenched his heart. He never expected a human-like ghost to wield such a powerful primordial flame. As he was in shock, Michael dashed toward the Blood Prince. This time, Michael was the one who swung his fist left and right. The Blood Prince instinctively raised his arms to block Ghost's punches. Michael's dark flames-covered fist hit the Blood Prince's arm ferociously. Unlike Michael, the Blood Prince didn't have any shield. It was a bad move to use his flesh as a shield. Just like the dark beams, the flames on Michael's fist burnt the Blood Prince's hands. Michael bombarded the Blood Prince with punches. The vampire's body started to smoke like a roasted turkey. Michael pushed the offense further by landing several kicks. While the Blood Prince was defending the punches, Michael shot another dark beam. Arg! The Blood Prince growled. Michael grabbed the Blood Prince's hand, spread them apart, and head-butted the Blood Prince again and again. Violent waves crashed onto the ships, almost tilting them upside down. Every time Michael's head clashed with the Blood Prince's, it sounded like thunderclaps. The Blood Prince violently struggled under Michael's grasp. He felt the dark flames crawling onto him like tiny snakes. Suddenly, Michael stopped head-butting the vampire. Instead, he clasped the Blood Prince's face. He looked the vampire in the eyes and fired the dark beams right through the vampire's eyes. The vampire screamed in agony. Unfrontally, the dark beams weren't powerful enough to penetrate through the Blood Prince's eyes. Even Michael couldn't kill the Blood Prince without an immortal killing weapon. All he could do was hurt him to the point when they fought next time, he could kill the vampire quickly. However, Michael did not want to simply hurt the Blood Prince. He wanted to literally rip apart his hand. Although the Blood Prince's appearance caught Michael off guard, it was a blessing. If he didn't appear, Michael would have had to look for an immortal bone to craft a weapon. Thanks to the Blood Prince, he didn't need to pay the system a huge sum or look for a bone. The dark flames crawled toward the Blood Prince, completely engulfing his right hand. The Blood Prince screamed. His thunderous roar echoed through the pocket dimension. It was powerful enough to create several 50 feet tall waves in the sea. Many soldiers abandoned the ships and flew away. They didn't dare to attack either. The shock waves produced by their clash were enough to kill several of them. Under the scorching heat of the dark flames, the skin melted off like butter. No matter how hard the Blood Prince tried, he couldn't escape Michael's hold. In his pain, he failed to notice a layer of darkness around him. Soon, the Blood Prince lost all the flesh on his right arm. Michael punched the shoulder bone. The Blood Prince fought back to escape Michael's grab using all of his strength. However, Michael covered himself with the dark flames. Furthermore, he willed the dark flames to engulf the Blood Prince too. Michael struggled to break the vampire's bones. No matter how many times he punched, the shoulder did not break. Finally, having no choice, Michael poured dark flames and dark energy into the dark beams. He shot the beams at the shoulder bone. Furthermore, he paid the system 50,000 badass points just to boost the beam's power. Let me go. The Blood Prince felt his hand coming off of his body. He couldn't cast any spells because of the dark flames around him. His skin slowly burned. Hence, his body and energy prioritized healing him instead of fighting. Finally, the bones cracked. With a final pull, Michael pulled out the Blood Prince's arm right off of his shoulder. Blood gushed out like a fountain. The soldiers who heard the thunderous roar of the Blood Prince trembled uncontrollably. Then, to the vampire's shock, Michael beat him with his own bone. Human! He roared. He flapped his wings and immediately flew away from Michael. He didn't dare to linger any longer. Do not underestimate him, Blood Prince. The Blood Prince heard Saber's words in his head. He regretted not heeding his advice. He thought he could kill Ghost and get what he wanted from Maxim Barnes. Unfortunately, everything went south when Ghost revealed the primordial flames. No matter how powerful a vampire was, they were as weak as a newborn baby in front of primordial flames. If an elder was in the Blood Prince's place, they would have burnt to dust. In the heat of the battle, Michael failed to notice the ships disappearing one by one on the horizon. Michael had realized the Thusians were escaping the pocket dimension. "Stay out of my way, or I will come straight to your home and burn everything down," Michael growled as the vampire vanished into thin air. He turned into a lightning bolt and headed down to destroy as many ships as possible before escaping the pocket dimension. The Blood Prince's appearance had thrown a wrench into his initial plan, to say the least. Chapter 709. Michael returned to King Gunnar's castle with the long bone of the Blood Prince. Yagner, General Bryce, Devarius, and Gaia saw him and were surprised by the bone. Michael put the bone with a thud. "When I asked you to pick one to board the ship, I thought you guys would pick someone who wouldn't blabber our plan to the Thusians." The trio frowned. "Master Ghost, what are you talking about?" asked General Bryce. "I am not going to make a big deal out of it. But the Thusians caught the two spies and beat them to death." Michael then turned his gaze toward Devarius. "Your guy, on the other hand, was happy to entertain the Thusians with all our plans. Starting from my involvement to how we reduced you, what did you do?" asked Devarius. The others slightly trembled. "Nothing. The Thusians killed him," said Michael. "Whose bone is this?" Yagner asked Michael. "A vampire's. Apparently, that son of a bitch Maxim made a deal with the vampires." "What?" General Bruce and Devarius almost shouted. They couldn't believe what they had just heard. Just these words were enough to make them feel like something was crawling on them. They were absolutely disgusted with Maxim. When they saw Michael grin, they were surprised even further. With a flick of his wrist, Michael took out a shiny blue crystal. He placed it on the table. "Is that a recording crystal?" asked Gaia. "Yep. That vampire was dumb enough to admit his dealings with Maxim. Now once the Royal News, Guardian Guild, and the Holy Church receive this, they will come to fuck him up from all directions." "That's..." Devarius was stunned. "That's great!" he shouted. They were excited to the point they had forgotten about the spies. "What about the ships?" asked Gaia. "I destroyed some, but that damn vampire stopped me from destroying the rest. Besides, those sneaky bastards ran away," said Michael. "So we have to face their full wrath, huh?" Yagner sighed. "Don't fret about it. We will have a fleet twice the size of Thusia when the time comes," said Michael. "My lords," suddenly, a soldier entered the room. He came carrying a golden scroll. "We received this just now. Who is for, and who sent it?" asked Gaia. "It's addressed from Master Ghost." Gaia took the scroll from the soldier and gave it to Michael. Michael opened the parchment, wondering who had sent him this. However, he was pleasantly surprised when he laid his eyes on what was written on it. "I need to meet my friend," said Michael. He turned his gaze toward the trio. "Prepare an offense against the Thusians. It's time we take the fight to them, and I will take care of this." Devarius took the recording crystal. Michael nodded and left the room with Gaia. When they disappeared from their sight, Michael used the runic teleporter to reach the dark forest. "What was that?" asked Gaia. "The scroll. Who was it really from?" "Saber. Elder Saber." Michael was just as surprised as Gaia. He didn't expect Saber to contact him like this. If he had to guess, Messiah would tell the Blood Prince didn't know about this, or it might just be a trap. Either way, Michael wanted to meet Saber. According to the scroll, Saber would be waiting for Michael in the sky above King Gunnar's castle in 2 hours. Gaia snatched the scroll and read it. She creased her brows. Why did he want to meet you in the daytime? I know it's not sunny out there, but still, let's go see what he has to say, said Michael. Gaia thought about meeting Saber. It took her a few minutes to agree. On his way to meet Azazel in the surveillance room, Michael told Gaia about his battle with the Blood Prince. He wanted Azazel to monitor the vampire castle cautiously to learn their next moves. At that moment, Michael was standing in his room alone. Gaia was with Nightmare in King Gunnar's castle. She decided to plan a crushing offensive attack against the Teusians. System, I have a bone of a half-immortal. Can I kill immortals with it? Asked Michael. You can, but not the others. What you have is a bone of a half-immortal. To kill the immortals, you need a weapon made of immortal bones. But since you have a primordial flame, you can cover the weapon made from a half-immortal bone and use it to kill an immortal, said the system. Michael stared at the bone in his hand. He wondered how to forge a weapon out of this bone. He needed to find a blacksmith who could. Unfortunately, your dark flames are too powerful. They will melt the bone in a few minutes. Only a few metals could withstand the dark flame's heat. The system suggests the host buy an ore, find a blacksmith and forge a weapon, Michael sighed. Even if he wanted to, he had no badass points to buy an ore again. The system required 5 million badass points for an ore large enough to make 2 swords. After purchasing the ore, he was required to have a 5-star blacksmith. How many points do I need to become a blacksmith myself? Michael asked, fiddling with the bone. Along with his inventor trait, Michael could forge many new weapons that could give him an edge against his foes. So rather than finding a blacksmith, Michael decided to become one himself. The system can offer you the 5-sta blacksmith trait for 10 million badass points. Michael raised his brows. The price was simply outrageous. But deep down, he knew it would be worth it. Let's put a pin in there. I think I'll be able to afford it after the war. Great. After exiting the system, Michael prepared to leave to meet Saber. He willed the system to teleport him back to King Gunnar's castle. When he arrived in his room, he flew out of it through the window. He shot into the sky higher and higher until he flew past the clouds. You're here, Michael heard Saber's voice. He turned around to see Saber floating in the air with a dark umbrella in his hand. Michael greeted the vampire with a smile. What's so special about today? Earlier, I met your blood prince, and now you, said Michael. Hearing Michael's words, Saber did not seem surprised. Instead, he sighed. I apologize for what happened in the castle. Let's just say not all of the elders approved of the blood prince's actions. But if you met the blood prince and you're still alive, that could mean one thing. Saber stared at Michael from top to bottom. Michael noticed Saber was trying to hide the shock and surprise from showing in his eyes. Next time you see him, don't be surprised if he doesn't have his right arm. Now tell me, Elder Saber, why did you want to meet me? Since I am in the middle of a war, I'd appreciate it if you don't beat around the bush, Elder Saber nodded. I want more potions you gave us at the castle. In return, you can name your price. I prepared a selling pitch, but this is the gist of it, said Saber. A few months ago, Saber would have dealt with Michael differently. But since he had not only reached the half-immortal stage but also beaten up the Blood Prince, Saber chose his words carefully. He didn't dare to show any disrespect. You know, the Blood Prince asked the same. Only he wanted to either turn me or kill me. I am not saying this deal won't happen, but I need something first. Think of it as goodwill for almost killing me when I came to you. What do you need? Asked Saber. He lived long enough to tell if someone was about to ask something. Judging by the look in Ghost's eyes and that wry smile on his face, it was obvious to Saber. I need an immortal killing weapon. If you can get me one in, let's say, 2 days, We can move on with this deal." To Michael's surprise, Saber didn't even flinch as though he was expecting it. "How do I trust you won't back off from the deal once you get the weapon or just kill me?" "Trust, Saber. You came here in daylight to prove you don't want to fight, and I am standing here doing nothing for the same reason as you. Besides, you know how valuable those potions are. So I'd say you have no choice either." Saber knew it was true. That potion could change the fate of their entire kind. He had been working to find a solution for their weakness of sunlight for ages. The closer he got to a solution was the potion that Ghost offered them. They would have gotten more potions if it weren't for the Blood Prince's stupid act. When Ghost came to them, they had the upper hand in the negotiations. But it wasn't the case anymore. Saber cursed the Blood Prince in his mind. "I will meet you here with what you asked in 2 days," said Saber. Michael was delighted by Saber's answer. He preferred to go with as many options as possible. Once he had received the weapon, he would have 2 weapons that could kill Maxim Barnes. Wonderful. Also, the Blood Prince was working with King Maxim. A bit of free advice: working with him always ends in trouble. "Thought you should know that," Michael said, turning around. He vanished from Saber's eyes. "Working with King Maxim, huh?" Saber smirked. "I have to investigate this," Saber said to himself. Suppose he planned everything correctly, Saber could soon get rid of the Blood Prince. He was more of a nuisance and obstacle to the vampire kind than a help. That was the main reason he quickly agreed to give an immortal killing weapon to Ghost. The two of them already had a history. Saber wished Ghost to kill the Blood Prince with the weapon. Then, everything would go back to the way it was. This time with the potions Ghost has, Saber could take over the vampire castle. It was indeed a risk, but Saber was willing to take this risk. Chapter 7:10. As soon as Michael returned to the castle, a soldier came running to him. "Master Ghost, the Guardians are here to see you. They are at the guest room waiting for you," the soldier said. Guardians? Michael creased his brows. He wondered why the Guardians were here. But when he thought about it, he was able to guess their reason. Giving a pat on the soldier's shoulder, Michael headed toward the guest room. The soldiers patrolling the castle inside bowed respectfully. A few minutes later, Michael finally arrived at the guest room. To his surprise, he saw Sonali and Evan Clark waiting for him. Evan Clark's eyes glimmered with awe and shock. To him, it felt like yesterday, the Ghost climbed the stairs in the Heavenly Gate competition. In 2 years, he went from a body-refining stage cultivator to a half-immortal. Not a single person could be compared to Ghost anymore. He was a different breed. Evan wondered whether Ghost would still act as friendly as before or just keep his distance. If the latter happened, Evan wouldn't be surprised. After all, Evan was at the core formation stage, and Ghost was at the half-immortal stage. The difference was simply outrageous. Although Gaia hated Sonali to the core, Michael greeted her with a friendly smile. "Miss Sonali," he shook Sonali's hand and then turned his gaze toward Evan. "Evan, how's life, buddy?" "It's been so long," Michael asked. Evan was speechless for a moment. He acted just as he did before. "Not as great as yours," Evan sighed. "What are you talking about?" "I heard you've had a breakthrough after a breakthrough." "I am proud of you," Evan's face brightened after hearing Michael's compliment. He then sat down, facing Sonali and Evan. "I heard you wanted to meet me." "What's going on?" asked Michael without beating around the bush. The smile on Evan's face disappeared. He looked at Sonali to start the conversation. "We are here to negotiate peace between you and Wuxia," said Sonali. "I am not here to side with Wuxia. What they had done was wrong. You and I both know that. However, we cannot let this war escalate any further," especially after you declared war against them. Zenali wasn't as naive as Edith. Everyone in the guild knew King Maxim Barnes was in the wrong. Yet, they turned their heads to the other side because Guardian Guild didn't think it was worth the trouble to meddle between kingdoms. Not to mention the higher-ups eyed for Princess Victoria to join the Guardian Guild. Besides, they were occupied with their internal politics and Dark Lord. You already helped Suvin and Zulon take back their cities. We will definitely look into the matter of Northgard, but first, we need you to stop killing Thusians. 2 armies fighting is different than a half-immortal butchering mortals. Why now? Michael tilted his head. You weren't here when we took back the cities. So why now? Asked Michael. Instead of Zelani, Evan answered Michael. Princess Victoria announced that you have waged against Thusia. So the people are requesting the Guardian Guild to step up. You're a guardian now. Evan nodded his head. Hey, race the deal. Since Evan is a friend of mine and you came here all the way from your guild, I can pause the war for 3 days. The people of Thusia can find a safe shelter or whatever they need to be safe. Zenali creased her brows as Michael continued. It'll sweeten the pot more. If the Thusian army stand down, Suvin, Zulon army, and I won't lay a finger on them. Come on, Ghost. We both know they want and can't do that. Michael rubbed his chin. Then what about this? If King Maxim gave back Northgard and returned to the Elon continent, leaving Ithilien, I would stop this war. You want to stop the war, right? Then, here you go, a way to stop the war. Michael was amused inside. King Maxim Barnes would fight the Guardian Guild then give up Ithilien. There was no way he would give up Ithilien because that's where the Cosmic Stream is. The Cosmic Stream was his big ticket to world domination. A man with his ambition would die than give up the Cosmic Stream. Michael knew that very well. Evan turned his gaze towards Zenali because Ghost was surprisingly cooperative. He kinda expected Ghost to tell them to fuck off, but he just offered them a way to stop the war, and it sounded reasonable. The question was whether the Guardian Guild and Tihuja would accept this deal. That won't happen, Zenali shook her head. She knew King Maxim well enough to know he would not let go of Ithilien. Then this war will continue. I will show him how it'd feel to lose a city and a huge chunk of his army. The friendly, warm smile Evan saw a few moments on Ghost's face completely vanished. I didn't want to use it, but I have no choice now. You cannot participate in this war. According to Clause 252b, anyone above the fusion stage must not interfere in the affairs between 2 or more kingdoms and use the overwhelming power to strong-arm the kingdoms. Zenali narrated the Guardian rule. In a few days, he would reveal himself as the Dark Lord and head back to the southern continent where the Guardian had no power. After that, he didn't have any need to fear the Guardians anymore. In fact, Zenali was lucky Michael didn't throw her out by her neck. Is that a Guardian Guild rule? The smile on Ghost's face gave Evan chills. If you continue to attack Thusians, we will be forced to take action against you. Do you really want to go against the guild? To their surprise, Michael burst into laughter. I don't give a fuck about your guild and your rules. Zenali's eyes turned bloodshot in anger. I didn't give a shit about Guardian Guild when I was a body refiner, and I certainly give a fuck now. You are not the only half-immortal in this world, Ghost. Zenali's words were cold. Evan began to tremble in fear. He never thought his first assignment as a guardian might just start a war between the guild and the half-immortal. Then I suggest you bring a few to Thusia. Because he'll be there. Just think about the collateral damage of the fighting between a half-immortal and a bunch of immortals. Thusia will be in ruins when the battle is done. That's what I want. So you're welcome to do whatever you want. Evan could tell he wasn't bluffing. There was no sign of fear in his eyes. Anyone could tell if the Guardian Guild brought their own rogue immortals, Ghost would fight them to the death. As he said, the collateral damage would ruin everything around them. It had been centuries since 2 immortals fought each other. Ghost, please think about it. Violence will solve nothing, Evan pleased. It will solve something for me. Zanali stood up from her seat. We are leaving, Evan, said Zanali. She then glanced at Michael. You will hear from the guild soon. But don't expect the next meeting to go like this if you don't change your mind. Zanali coldly said as Michael chuckled. I am looking forward to it. Michael waved his hand without any concern. In 2 days, Michael would get an immortal killing weapon from Saber. At that time, the immortals would be afraid to get near him. They didn't spend all that time achieving immortality to die because of some guardian code. Even if they were willing to fight Michael, they didn't have any chance of killing Michael. He was certain he could fight an immortal. Plus, he would be in the southern continent soon, where even the immortals had no power. After Zanali and Evan left the place, Michael headed to the dark forest. On his way, he ordered Gaia, Eladir, and Nightmare to be in the pocket dimension attached to the dark forest mansion. When he entered the pocket dimension, he saw them waiting for him. Nightmare immediately welcomed Michael with a small hug. He seemed excited to hear Michael's praise. He fought against a fusion stage royal dragon and survived. You did a good job, buddy. Sorry I let you down, Michael said. He rubbed Nightmare's chin gently. Although he took the ice dragon heart from the Thusians, he didn't use it on Nightmare. His mind was occupied with other things and ignored powering up Nightmare. When Nightmare fought the royal dragon, Michael regretted letting down Nightmare. What are you talking about? Nightmare shook his head. With a flick of his wrist, Michael retrieved the ice core from the system store. The moment it appeared on Michael's palm, the temperature around them dropped by several degrees. I cannot turn you into a royal dragon yet, but I can give you some cool new abilities, said Michael. Nightmare's eyes sparkled when he heard the words cool new abilities. Michael then nodded at Eladir as he started to draw several symbols on the ground. In a few blinks of an eye, an icy blue chakra appeared on the ground. Michael placed the ancient ice core in the center. Nightmare, sit beside the ice core, said Eladir. While Nightmare was obeying Eladir's orders, Michael approached Gaia. I just met Zanali. As soon as she heard these words, Gaia clenched her fist. Just Zanali's name was enough to turn Gaia's eyes red in anger. Where and why? She came to meet me in Gunnar's castle. Apparently, she was there on behalf of the Guardians to tell me to stop the war. That bitch, Gaia growled. Michael told her everything that happened, and Gaia couldn't be more proud of him. Since they were heading for the southern continent and revealing their identities, there was no need for them to pretend to respect the Guardians anymore. Gaia didn't think the Guardians would send an immortal after Michael any time sooner. If her guess were right, Zanali would go to Thusia and ask them to stop the war. It's ready, said Eladir, drawing their attention toward Nightmare. Are you ready? Michael asked Nightmare. I was born ready, Nightmare grinned. Chapter 7:11 Nightmare waited for the process to begin without showing any signs of hesitation. Up to this point, only Eladir knew about how this ritual would work. Considering Michael had the ancient dragon heart, he was able to buy the scroll containing giving Nightmare new cold breath from the system for 200,000 badass points. It would have cost Michael 600,000 badass points if he didn't have this ancient ice heart. Michael patiently waited for the chakra to radiate a bright white light that formed a dome around Nightmare. Inside this dome, Nightmare stared at the ice core. Gaia noticed Nightmare shivering. The ancient ice heart radiated enough coldness to put a thin layer of ice on Nightmare. Now absorb the cold energy from the heart, Eladir instructed Nightmare. Nightmare nodded as he slowly breathed in the coldness. At first, Nightmare felt intense pain all over his body. He felt like he was being frozen to death. You can do this, Nightmare, said Gaia. Seeing the pain on Nightmare's face, she forgot about Zanali and her meeting with Michael. She sat on the chakra's edge and motivated Nightmare. "How long will this last?" asked Michael. "Depends on Nightmare's ability to absorb the energy. According to the scroll you gave, it varies from dragon to dragon," said Eladir. Slowly seconds turned into minutes, and minutes turned into hours. Gaia and Michael sat on the floor, looking after Nightmare. Michael just put his head on Gaia's lap and stared at the starry sky. He pinched Gaia's cheek, ears, and nose. After a while of putting up with Michael's playfulness, she knocked him on the head. "Aren't you worried about Nightmare?" she frowned. "Look at him, he's turning into an ice statue." Michael glanced at Nightmare. A thick layer of ice covered his body. As she said, Nightmare was lying on the ground like a statue made of ice. However, Michael did not worry about Nightmare. The system wouldn't have given him the scroll if Nightmare couldn't survive this. "He's fine. He's a dragon, for God's sake. A little bit of chillness won't kill him." Michael cupped her cheeks and pulled them as far as he could. "Oh," she growled. "For a guy who's about to make a life-changing decision, you're awfully cheery." Gaia ruffled his hair. "I don't know. I just feel free. Like a burden has been lifted from me. I think our decision to reveal our identities might be the best decision we have ever made." "Do you think my mother will really come to us when you reveal your identity? Why did she make such a weird rule?" asked Gaia. "I don't know why. But when she comes to us, I won't let anything happen to her. She ran enough. I want to know why my real father is. I have a feeling he might be connected to why Mother faked her death." Gaia frowned. Michael just pulled her head closer to him and kissed her on the forehead. "Just don't ask too many questions. Enjoy the time you have with her first. Not everyone will get a chance like this." Gaia, if Michael didn't know his mother gave him off voluntarily, he would have done and given anything to meet her. After knowing that, she was dead to him. Michael didn't bother to find her. He had enough things to worry about. But deep down, he was still saddened by everything. Hence, Michael wanted Gaia to have the best time with Adelia instead of asking too many questions. Whatever problem Adelia was in, Michael would take care of them. After all, Adelia was family to him. The two of them spent hours talking in peace. Eladir did not return to the place until the next morning. He checked up on Nightmare. "Shoo!" When Eladir was about to speak something, Gaia shushed him. She glanced down at Michael, who was peacefully sleeping on her lap. Eladir nodded and left the pocket dimension. He had tasks over his head. For example, he had to create runes to build more mortars and teleportation arrays. After Eladir left the pocket dimension, Gaia looked after her two boys. Meanwhile, Zenali and Evan reached the capital of Thusia. This was Evan's first time coming to Ithilien. Hence, he was pretty surprised by the look of the city. Even the royal land in Elon paled in comparison to the city before him. Every building in the city was newly built with elegant architecture. Each building was surrounded by neatly pruned bushes and flowers. Maple trees stood guard on either side of the street. Unfortunately, the winter made the trees shed their leaves. Otherwise, the streets would have been covered with red and yellow maple leaves. Evan noticed people running through the snow with no smiles on their faces. As a matter of fact, they looked terrified. Several carriages headed toward the city gates. All these carriages seemed to have belonged to the nobles. Evan realized the war declaration of Ghost had affected the people more than he had expected. These people never lost their smiles when they waged war against Suvan, Zulon, and Northgard. They celebrated their army's valor because they knew the Thusian army would crush their foes. However, when they learned a half-immortal has taken over the cities their army conquered and taking the fight to them, they were terrified. Zenali and Evan decided to walk toward the castle instead of flying. She wanted to know how this war had been affecting the people. While walking through the snow-covered street, Evan and Zanali heard various conversations about nobles leaving the capital just to be safe. The commoners seem to have a lot of trust in King Maxim, said Evan. He heard many commoners speaking so highly of King Maxim. They trusted their king to defeat even a half-immortal. There is something we are missing here, Guardian Captain, speak your mind, said Zanali. I know, Ghost. He is not one to make enemies so quickly without reason. There must be something that happened between King Max and him. I've never seen him so hell-bent on destroying something. Many nobles in Elon adored him because he was opportunistic. Among all the youngsters I know, he has the least enemies. We have to know the history between him and Thusia, isn't that obvious? No one knows about Ghost before he came to the river town. Whatever happened between him and Thusia, it must have happened before he came to the river town. I don't think he or King Maxim would tell us what happened. All we can do now is try to talk some sense into Princess Victoria, Zanali sighed. Guardian Captain. You don't actually think they would accept Ghost's terms, do you? Zanali shook her head. It doesn't matter what I think. We are tasked to try to stop the war. As far as I can tell, the simplest way to stop this war is to stop Ghost from launching an offense against Thusia and stop King Maxim from waging war against every kingdom there is. Unfortunately, the Alpha Guardians lost their chance to stop Ghost. So unless they bring in the Immortals, nothing can stop Ghost, Evan agreed with Zanali. Before he joined the Guardians, he never thought the guild would be in such trouble. Ever since the Royal News published the connection between the Guardian Guild and the vampires, the Holy Church and the other clans were questioning every decision the guild made. Furthermore, the guild had lost many big donors which put a dent in their financial status. Simply put, the Guardian Guild was not in a blunder, and unless they made some big changes, their path would only go down further. The higher-ups wanted to stop the war between Thusia and Ghost so they could show the public that the guild still had the best interest of the people. Eventually, Zanali and Evan finally reached the castle. When the guards saw the guild symbol on Zanali's chest, they immediately escorted them to the castle. When they reached the front lawn of the castle, they were welcomed by Edith. Welcome to Thusia, Zanali. Edith embraced Zanali in a warm hug. Evan was surprised to see Zanali smiling. From what he had heard from his fellow guardians, Zanali had never smiled since the death of Guardian Peyton. Edith. This is Evan Clark, a Guardian trainee. Hello Evan, Edith shook Evan's hands. Let's go inside. It's freezing out here. Edith led the two of them inside the castle. Evan looked around the castle and realized this was the cleanest castle he had ever seen. They followed Edith to a cozy room. The firewood in the fireplace crackled, producing gentle warmth. Evan and Zanali sat on the red sofa as Edith ordered the maids to bring them something to drink. Where is Princess Victoria? Asked Zanali. The smile on Edith's face disappeared instantly. She is meeting with the generals. She'll be here in a few minutes. So how did your meeting go? Asked Edith. Not great. Unless King Maxim Barnes apologizes to the people of Suvan, Zulon, and Northgard and returns to Elon, he wouldn't back down, Edith sighed, hearing Zanali. The Guardians have to send the Immortals, Zanali. He needs to be stopped, not only him, Edith. Zanali's response surprised Edith. King Maxim Barnes started this. Now those kings and people are just fighting back for they lost, you're right. But Ghost didn't care about those people. He's just using them for his revenge against King Maxim and Victoria. Do you know what's the history between them? Asked Zanali. Does it really matter? A voice resonated in the room. They all turned their heads to see Victoria walking into the room. Chapter 7:12 Victoria shook Zanali and Evan's hands before taking her seat beside Edith. The maids quickly entered the room carrying a plate with 4 cups of hot chocolate on it. Evan felt refreshed, taking a sip of hot chocolate. Knowing the history between Wuxia and Ghost might help us stop this war before it escalates any further, Princess Victoria, said Zenali. This war only ends in only one way. Ghost will die by my hands. I will parade his head throughout my kingdom just like he did to my soldiers, Victoria sternly said. Even so. This will take so many lives. We have to try to prevent that, said Zenali. They are soldiers, Guardian Zenali. They know death is a part of their job. However, I won't let anyone discreet their bodies as Ghost, Evan sighed inside. Victoria seemed just as stubborn as Ghost. However, he couldn't blame her after learning what Ghost did to the Thusians. Although what he did was effective, it was a brutal tactic. Even he felt a chill running down his spine. So it was understandable the Thusians lost their courage to fight and ultimately lost the cities they conquered initially. If you want to prevent death, ask Ghost to surrender and answer for his crimes. He thinks he is invincible. When he steps into my kingdom, I will show him the half-immortals can be killed. Victoria's lips curved upwards. He gave us 3 days to get the people to safety. I suggest we get them off the island to Idrizel, said Zenali. Among all the kingdoms in Azer, Idrizel was the only kingdom that wasn't involved in any war. The king of Idrizel and King Maxim had an understanding. In other words, the Idrizel king pledged his loyalty to King Maxim secretly. After conquering the rest of the continent, Idrisil king planned to formally announce Idrizel would be a part of Wuxia in the future. Zenali heard rumors about the dealing between King Maxim and the king of Idrizel. So she knew the Thusians would be offered a safe haven in Idrizel. However, Victoria shook her head with a snicker. We Thusians don't run with our tails between our legs, Guardian Zenali. We will stay here and end all the threats once and for all. Zenali started to get annoyed by Victoria. Don't let your anger cloud your judgment, Princess Victoria. Even if you have a way to kill Ghost, you will lose hundreds or even thousands of people as collateral damage. Do the right thing and send them away. I don't recall asking for the Guardian Guild's help, Guardian Zenali. The only reason I am even talking to you is out of respect. We know how to take care of our people. Victoria's voice was cold. I think your people might disagree because your people asked for the Guardian Guild's help, Victoria frowned. This was a piece of new news to her. She glanced at Edith. Judging by the look on Edith's, it was obvious to Victoria that Edith had forgotten to tell her about it. Some people are more afraid and have less trust in their king. If anyone wants to leave, they are welcome to leave, so, will you agree if I announce this to the people? As a guardian, I am obliged to help people in need. Especially when they are stuck between 2 armies, said Zenali. Victoria took a small sip. She pondered what Zenali had said. Deep down, she knew sending away the people was indeed the right move. However, after Ghost destroyed many of the powerful warships, Victoria was not in the state to afford to lose a ship from her fleet. The Thusian army needed every ship and soldier. Since Zenali was so keen on keeping the citizens safe, Victoria decided to use Zenala's soft spot to her advantage. If you want to get them to safety, bring the guardian ships to the Golden Port. My warships will escort you, but they cannot travel with you to Idrizel, Evan sighed in relief. Finally, a good thing came out of their trip to the Azer continent. My ships are just an hour's sailing from the Golden Port. Zenala's answer surprised everyone. She brought the warships of Nagaland itself to escort the Thusian out of Ithilin Island. Although Victoria kept what happened to her warships a secret, the Guardian had spies within the port. Hence, Zenali knew Wuxia had lost several of their warships. You came prepared, Victoria exclaimed as Zenali nodded. What about the immortals in your guild, Zenali? Are they going to stand beside and let Ghost do whatever he wants? Edith opened her mouth. This time, he's attacking Wuxia. What if he decided to do the same to another kingdom? Who will stop him then? Asked Edith. To their surprise, Zenali chuckled. You do realize they are just fighting back, right? It was King Maxim who started this whole charade. We had the right reason to wage war. Guardian Zanali. Victoria creased her brows. Yeah, right, they couldn't tell whether she was being sarcastic or not. Victoria didn't get furious as she couldn't care less about what Zanali thought. Your guild will intervene soon, Zanali. Zanali turned her gaze toward Edith. She saw a glimmer in her eyes as though Edith knew something she didn't. After discussing the war for a few more minutes, they all went their separate ways. Victoria headed for the Golden Port with Zanali and Evan, while Edith went to meet Layla. They had 2 more days to get the Thujans to Adrizal. Until now, Victoria had no clue where or when Ghost would launch the next attack. This time, Victoria had ways to fight him. She needed to keep Ghost at bay until her father came out of his seclusion. The last time she heard from him, he was just a week away from reaching the half-immortal stage. With the cosmic energy running through his veins, he could kill Ghost in a few minutes. Almost a day later, Gaia saw a few cracks forming in the ice shield around Nightmare. A city blue glow appeared in Nightmare's chest. As seconds passed, the cracks grew bigger and wider. Human, I think Nightmare is coming out of his shell. Come here, Gaia said to Michael through the earpiece. When the sun rose in the morning, he left the castle to meet Saber. Today was the day he would give Michael an immortal killing weapon. Give me a minute, said Michael. The chakra gradually lost its glow. When the chakra completely faded away, Gaia stepped closer to Nightmare. Suddenly, the ice shell shattered into pieces. Gaia's hands instinctively raised her hands in front of her face to cover her face. A while later, she gently placed her hand on Nightmare. She tried to lift him in his arms. The moment Gaia touched Nightmare, she felt acute pain in her hand due to the intense coldness of his body. Nightmare slowly opened his eyes. His red pupils flickered in icy blue light. A puff of cold smoke escaped Nightmare's nostrils. In a few blinks of an eye, he transformed into his full form. His crimson-red scale had a tinge of bluishness to it. Nightmare slowly turned his head. To Gaia's surprise, Nightmare breathed frost onto the ground. The ground immediately froze to the point it shattered. Nightmare did not stop as he kept breathing frost out of his mouth. He created a tall pillar of ice. Under Gaia's gaze, Nightmare's pupils returned to their usual crimson red. As she expected, Nightmare breathed fire, melting the ice statue. Even under the scorching heat, the ice pillar took a few seconds to melt. Finally, Nightmare turned his gaze toward Gaia. His mouth formed a haughty grin. He quickly breathed frost on Gaia. A thin layer of ice formed around Gaia as Nightmare giggled. Are you cold? Gaia shattered the shell of ice with a single punch. Her hand went numb. Anyone under the core strengthening stage would freeze to death immediately. Nightmare quickly shrunk his body and jumped onto her shoulder. Ghost, Nightmare saw Michael appear in the pocket dimension. He walked toward them with a sword in his hand. It was a fairly large, wide, slightly curved blade made of bronze held by a grip wrapped in gilded, jade-green leather. Dual-edged and razor-sharp, this weapon was made for those looking for power, versatility, and general awesomeness. The blade had a thin, slightly curved crossguard, just large enough to give the blade the perfect weight balance. The crossguard had an ornamented hawk beak on each side. Any oblivious man could tell this weapon wasn't created by just any blacksmith. A massive pommel was decorated with a rare gem. No expense was spared for this gorgeous weapon. The blade itself was engraved. Intricate decoration patterns had been carefully etched into the blade, which added mystery and supposedly more power to the weapon. This sword seemed to have been used only on rare occasions. None deserved the weapon more than the greatest fighters of all. Michael put the sword in his sheath on the back and grabbed Nightmare from Gaia's shoulder. He lifted Nightmare into the air as though Nightmare was a human baby. "Oh, you're chilly," said Michael. Just like Nightmare did to Gaia, he breathed frost on Michael's face. But the dark flames appeared out of nowhere and vaporized Nightmare's frost breath. Gaia walked around Michael to inspect the sword. She unsheathed the sword from his sheath. She looked closely at the sword. She could feel the intense energy radiation from the blade. The blade had a gray shade and didn't feel like it was metal. "Can this sword withstand the heat of your dark flames?" Gaia questioned Michael. "No, it can't. But it can kill immortals and half-immortals," said Michael. Although Gaia was a little disappointed, she expected it. On the other hand, Nightmare was delighted to show Michael his new abilities, such as frost breath and creating a layer of ice on his body as a defensive measure. Michael noticed that after absorbing the ice dragon's heart, Nightmare's cultivation went from the core strengthening stage level 2 to level 6. "Now that this is over, we have to get to the castle. It's time to initiate the first phase of my attack plan," said Gaia with a grin. Chapter 713 Finally, the day of Michael's first offense against Wuxia had arrived. Yagner, General Bryce, and Devarius were armed to the teeth. They waited for Gaia's plan of attack around the Oka table. Gaia herself was not in her armor because she didn't need any armor. She put her finger on the golden port. "We will attack the golden port at dawn," said Gaia. "After what Ghost did to their ships, the Thusians are being careful. So only a large-scale attack here would bring their ships out. But don't worry, we have 2,000 warships with us." Yagner's brows arched up in surprise. 2,000 warships was a vast number. With that amount of ships, they could conquer any kingdom by the sea. He wondered where they managed to get these ships. Yagner's reaction was no different than the others. They all stared at Gaia curiously. "Our vanguard ships have a long-range weapon attached. So we will lay waste on Thusians from a safe distance. This will reduce the number of casualties on our side. Who's going to deal with that dragon?" asked General Bryce. The images of that dragon flashed across his mind. It haunted his dreams. "Ghost will take care of that," they sighed in relief. Although the dragon was gigantic, terrifying, and at the fusion stage level 8, Ghost was half immortal. Of course, their battle would be frightening, but the odds were definitely against the dragon. While Ghost deals with the dragon, our ships will move forward. Since Golden Port doesn't have any space large enough to hold the Thusian army, and they would rely on naval power, it's safe to say we won't have much of a ground battle. But, Gaia raised her finger. She glanced at them for a moment before continuing. "We received numerous reports saying 2 fusion stage generals are stationed at the Golden Port. Where do they get all these fusion stage cultivators? They used to be so rare, and now, they are popping out from everywhere." Devarius expressed annoyance over the amount of fusion stage cultivators Wuxia had. One couldn't blame him. While many other kingdoms barely had one fusion stage cultivator, Wuxia had several. Only a handful of people knew how Wuxia managed to produce several fusion stage cultivators in a short amount of time, and Gaia was one of them. Still, she did not indulge these 3 with anything about the cosmic stream. Anyone who learns about the cosmic stream would try to covert it. It belonged to Michael and the Order of Death. "While our ships are destroying the Thusians, I will deal with the 2 fusion stage generals. You need any backup general?" asked Yagner. Since Gaia was leading the army, everyone began to address her as general. "No. I want the 3 of you to take a few men and destroy their warehouses." Yagner creased his brows. Gaia ignored their shocked gazes. "This is where the Thusians stores their precious things before importing them to other kingdoms or distributing them to their own cities and villages. What's the point of attacking this warehouse?" asked General Bryce. "To steal whatever they have stored inside," Gaia wryly smiled. "From the outside, they will see we have destroyed their warehouse. which will send them a message to fear us. But in reality, we will rob them blind. But General, is it really necessary? Pillaging their warehouse is not an honorable thing to do. Yagner scratched his head as Gaia slammed her fist on the table. Are you kidding me? They have pillaged your cities, your women, and everything you had. Honor doesn't get you shit. If we don't change the way how we fight, we will never defeat King Maxim, who by the way did all the despicable thing there is to take over your kingdoms. General Bryce and Devarius felt the same way as Yagner, but they didn't dare to express their thoughts on the matter. Also, don't mistake this for a discussion. This is me giving you orders. So take your opinions and shove them up where the sun doesn't shine. Got it? After Gaia's outburst, they shut their mouths and just nodded to her plan. Whatever is inside, we will share it 50-50. If any of you feel like this is not an honorable thing, Gaia air quoted the word honorable. You can let go of your share. Do you have any idea what's inside? A rough idea, perhaps? Asked Devarius, quickly trying to change her mind. I would have if you guys had better spies. Gaia rolled her eyes. After Michael's attack on the Golden Port, Victoria herself visited the place and rounded up all the spies. With Edith's lie detector array, the spies stood no chance. Let's just say we got to the warehouse successfully. What then? How do we take their things? Asked General Bryce. As though Gaia was expecting this question, she grinned. Then, with a flick of her wrist, she took out a dark gray scroll. She opened it up to reveal various intricate runes engraved on it. None of them had an idea what this would do, but they could tell it was somehow to help them steal everything inside the warehouse. It's a teleportation scroll, except it would only teleport things, said Gaia. Eladir personally designed the scroll. The downside of this teleporter scroll was it could only teleport things with minimum energy radiation. For instance, if there were sacks of grain or gold, it could teleport them. However, the teleporter would fail if there were a potion, dragon bones, or anything with high energy radiation. Gaia lied when asked if she had any idea what was inside. The truth was she knew exactly what was inside. The Thusians were storing grains, food, gold ore, metal ores, and crates of potions. Due to Michael's sudden attack, they were able to properly distribute the things to the cities. Since Michael was leaving for the southern continent after this war, he planned to take them with him. It was a simple enough task. So she believed the trio could complete the task without any problems. Since this will be a naval battle, we don't have much need for your armies. Take this as a gift from Ghost, General, Devarius called out for Gaia. What about Northgard? When are we planning to retake my kingdom? Good question. After we take over the Golden Port, the Thusians will be forced to take a huge chunk of their troops from the Northgard and station them in their own cities. That's when we make our move. The only reason why we didn't do it until now is the collateral damage. I won't be surprised if the Thusians use your people as hostages to escape our wrath, said Gaia. Although Michael could destroy Thusian armies in a few hours, he chose not to because he wanted to learn the art of war through this war. After all, Michael would lead his army against powerful people in the future. He couldn't rely on his power alone. Instead, he needed his wits and experience in wars. Hence, Michael treated this as a war simulator. Devarius pondered what Gaia had said and agreed with her. After taking over the Golden Port, I will personally come to Northgard and help you chase off the Thusians. Thank you, General. Satisfied with Gaia's answer, Devarius bowed. Granted, Elia was a foul-mouthed, quick-to-anger girl, but she was a damn good leader. Furthermore, her ways might be ruthless and unheard of, yet they worked. Without her, they wouldn't have taken back the cities without breaking a sweat. Now you may go to your armies, motivate them or whatnot, and come meet me here in 15 minutes, Gaia dismissed them. As the light drained away, there was barely enough even for shadows. Whether one liked it or not, the darkness arrived, and everything lost its color under it. Even the stars and moon cowered behind a dense layer of cloud, giving the air a tincture associated with the world before a storm. The ocean before the Golden Port was calm. Hundreds of ships guarded the city behind them. Their silhouettes against a newly silver sky, its blue hue had almost gone until dawn. Their sails swayed in the wind, creaking into the gusting air. The usually buzzing Golden Port was empty and void of any life. Thanks to Sinala's quick and coordinated effort, they managed to transport the people to Idrizel. At that moment, only the naval army and soldiers remained in the Golden Port. Victoria issued a kill order. The soldiers had the right to kill anyone they thought suspicious after nightfall. From a bird's view, the Thusians formed a trident formation on the sea. The leading ship at the top of the center end was a man-o-war ship captained by one of General Booth's men, Hubert Mertz. General Booth had given him the command of the entire Thusian fleet. The best minds from Thusia came up with the trident formation. Furthermore, they had a kill squad waiting for Ghost if he decided to show up. This kill squad contained 70 men, all personally picked by General Booth himself. They were the best of the best, armed with an immortal killing spear. General Hubert Mertz was an old man with long white hair and a beard. He was armed to the teeth with crimson-red armor. Every inch of his armor had a rune engraved in it. They radiated a dim glow under the dark sky. His calm eyes swept across the ocean. He let the soothing sound of the waves calm his mind and soul. The soldiers behind him weren't nervous as they were all war veterans. Yet, even the threat of a half-immortal couldn't shake their resolve. They all waited for the enemy ships to appear. The last time, the enemies caught them off guard by suddenly appearing out of nowhere. This time, they were prepared. The moment the space distorts, the arrays in the sky would alert all the ships of the enemy's presence. Edith herself designed all these arrays to give them an edge against Ghost and his army. General Hubert looked over his shoulder and saw his second-in-command, Albert Mertz, his grandson, walking toward him. Chapter 714 Albert Mertz was a hot-blooded young man in his youth. He was one of the men who received the gift of cosmic energy thanks to his undying loyalty toward King Maxim Barnes. As a result, he became a soul-refining stage cultivator. With his cultivation level and years of training from his grandfather, he climbed up the ranks in the army and became the second-in-command to his grandfather himself. The ocean breeze disturbed Albert's wavy silver hair. He joined his grandfather on the upper deck, near the rudder. "Everything seems to be calm," said Albert. "For now," said Hubert. "Power always comes with a cost, Albert." Hubert was taken aback by surprise. For some reason, Albert couldn't see the absolute resolve to win in his grandfather's eyes. "General, what do you mean by that?" asked Albert. Hubert sighed. He was one of the first people who went to the cosmic stream in person with King Maxim Barnes. While everyone praised King Maxim for acquiring such a power source, Hubert was the only one worried about the consequences of having such a power source. Although Hubert did not know how King Maxim managed to acquire the cosmic stream, he felt death around it. He lived and faced enough battles to know the smell of blood even though the place was cleaned up well. Deep down, Hubert felt this was the consequence he was worried about. "I had many disciples in my life, Albert, and I've told this to each and every one, including our king. Never lust for power and revenge," Albert said in a gentle tone. "Grandpa," Albert stepped closer to Hubert. "What's going on? You talk like we're going to lose this battle," Albert whispered. "We are just mere pawns in a larger game we don't and can't see. Our orders are clear, we will fight this battle to win. But in case," Hubert turned around. He looked his grandson in the eyes and smiled. "This turned out to be my last battle, I want you to leave all this fighting," Albert creased his brows. He was completely stunned by his grandfather's words. "Do not seek revenge. If I die, let me die with honor. Do not sully my death seeking revenge against the one who bested me." Hubert put his hand on Albert's shoulder. He had a peaceful moment with his grandson. His life flashed across his eyes. He recalled every happy moment in his life, and none of those moments included battlefields or wars. He had won countless battles, but nothing made him happier than holding his newborn son or his grandson. "Grandpa, we are about to head into a full-scale war. Everyone wants you to be the general who won battles against all odds. There will always be a war to win, Albert. You are my greatest disciple, not King Maxim and not General Booth. You must be better. Better than me, better than your father, and better than everyone." Albert smiled and felt proud of his grandfather's words. The two of them only had each other. All the other Merts gave their lives to the betterment of Thusia. Albert was the last Merts of the long, proud family of Merts. Hubert wanted his grandson to carry on the legacy of Merts. "I will, Grandpa. But don't talk like this. We will win this war and send those bastards to hell. Ghost won't survive our death squad." Hubert nodded. Although he didn't believe mortals could defeat a half-immortal, especially a powerful one like Ghost, he didn't want his grandson to lose morale. "But heed my words one last time, Albert. If I fall today, don't fall in my footsteps," said Hubert with a heavy heart. Albert took a deep breath. "I won't be the last Merts, Grandpa. I promise to honor your words." Satisfied with Albert's answer, Hubert patted him on the back before turning his gaze back to the ocean. As Hubert was staring at the calm sea, something suddenly appeared on the horizon. "They are here," Albert mumbled under his breath. He quickly took the spyglass dangling on his waist. He used it to take a closer look at the horizon. As he expected, it was a war frigate. It almost perfectly blended with the darkness. He had never seen a ship completely painted black. Even the sails were as black as midnight. Albert saw silhouettes of several people on the deck. One by one, many warships appeared behind this black ship. A thunderous horn echoed through the air, alerting the soldiers of the enemies. "Take position." General Hubert's domineering voice resonated through the air as loud as the sound created by the array itself. His previously worried eyes turned predatory. "The moment they come into the firing range, unload everything you have on them," ordered Albert. The Thusian ships were built with longer and wider fire ranges than any other ships in this world. Best blacksmiths, runemasters, and engineers worked day and night to strengthen their firepower. Thus, the Thusians could destroy their foes from out of the hostile ship's fire range. None of the kingdoms in Azer survived the assault of the Thusian naval army. To attack the Thusian ships, the hostile ships had to sail forward. The trident formation was to flank them from left and right, while the center point was to destroy them head-on. According to the strategists of Thusia, it was a powerful lethal formation. To their shock, the black ship or the others did not even drop its sails. Instead, they just hovered over the water, doing nothing. "Are they expecting us to make the first move?" asked Albert. "No," Hubert shook his head. Since he was at the fusion stage, he was able to see the hostile crews running around the upper deck, carrying wooden crates despite the snow affecting everyone's sight. Hubert noticed they were unloading the crates near the front of the black ship. But to his knowledge, there were no cannons in the front, and even if there were, they wouldn't be able to shoot more than 2 or 3 cannonballs. But suddenly, a red spotlight fell on a ship far right from Hubert's. They were bewildered by the spotlight. When Albert looked closer at the black ship, he noticed a red light shooting toward the sky. Soon, they heard a sound resembling a rumbling thunderclap. At the same time, Albert's sparks of fire and smoke emerged from the black ship. He followed the sparks of fire until they flew right above the ship with a red spotlight on. In mere seconds, countless fireballs rained down upon the ship like tiny meteors. Wood and body parts flew out of the ship as the fireballs destroyed everything they touched. It was as though countless cannons fired cannonballs from directly above. They had never seen such an attack before. The screams of the soldiers filled the air, along with the smell of gunpowder, burning flesh, and crackling wood. Finally, under their shocked gazes, the ships sank into the sea. When several red spotlights fell on their ships, the soldiers felt a chill running down their spines. "General, your orders." Albert shouted. "Set sail. Avoid the spotlights at all costs." Hubert snapped out of his shock and quickly issued his orders. The crews frantically ran around the upper deck, setting sail forward. But once again, the sound of thunderclaps resonated through the air. This time, the dark sky lit up with fireballs. Hundreds of mortar shells glistened like stars in the sky. When they landed on their targets, ships and mortal bodies exploded. The red spotlights targeted the ships with weak soldiers. Although many soldiers cast defense spells around the ship, the mortal shells destroyed their shields as though it was nothing. The Thusians were thrown into chaos. However, General Hubert managed to lead the ships closer to the hostile ones. Once they were in the firing range, they could finally return the favor by bombarding them. "Soul refiners," Hubert shouted. "You're clear to fly and engage the enemy crews. Destroy their red weapon." His order echoed through the air. A couple of soldiers on his ship shot toward the sky. They soared through the sky, heading to the hostile ships. As nature itself feared their battle, the clouds began to swirl, indicating an imminent storm. The howling wind carried a sense of threat as flashes of lightning struck across the sky. Every time lightning flashed, they saw the dark clouds swirling in the sky as though it was opening a giant portal to the higher realms. The soul-refining stage warriors disappeared into the dark clouds. The Thusians could differentiate between the sound of natural thunder and the sound of mortar firing. The soldiers prayed that the red lights would not fall on them. But the gods did not answer their prayers. Compared to the cannons, the mortals had faster reload times. Hence, they rained death upon the Thusians before the soul refiners could get close to the pirate ships. "What is that thing?" Albert shouted. He cast a golden shield around him and his grandfather. Still, they couldn't help but be afraid of the red lights. "They are raining death upon our men." Another soldier shouted. "Don't lose hope. Our men will destroy their weapons." Albert shouted. He really hoped the soul refiners could end the threat before they lost more ships. Everywhere he looked, he saw fire and smoke. They were slowly moving closer to the hostile ships. Suddenly, a bear looked at the sky as he sensed a powerful presence. He heard a powerful roar resonate through the air. At that same time, a lightning struck across the sea, illuminating a dragon's shadow above the clouds. "She is here," Hubert mumbled under his breath. "It's that damn dragon," Albert growled. The soldiers stationed at the Golden Port a few days ago couldn't forget the terrifying roar of the dragon. A mere shadow of it was enough to terrify them. "Fire the signal." Hubert amplified his voice with celestial energy. Despite the exploding ships and thunderclaps, everyone was able to hear his words loud and clear. Albert did not waste any second. With a flick of his wrist, he conjured a bright blue orb of light. He raised his hand above his head, firing the orb of light into the sky. As soon as the blue light hit the sky, another roar echoed through the air. Chapter 7:15 The Thusians saw the royal dragon in the sky. It casts a shadow dark and big enough to turn the area darker. Every flap of its wings put out the fire on the sea. It roared before flying into the clouds to fight the hostile dragon. On top of Nightmare, Gaia fought the soul refiners sent by Hubert. She displayed her full mastery over the bow and arrow. Despite the stormy wind and altitude, each and every arrow found its target. She locked her gaze with a soul refiner covered in flames. He flew toward Big Bertha like a rocket. As soon as Nightmare noticed him, he flapped his wings. The soul refiner looked over his shoulder to see Nightmare soaring toward him. He immediately waved his hand as two fiery wings appeared on his back. Gaia knocked an arrow. She was about to release the golden arrow when she heard the royal dragons roar. "We have to end them all quick," said Gaia. Nightmare nodded. He quickly closed his wings, willing the arch energy in his body to increase his speed. "Slow him down," said Nightmare. Without delaying a second, Gaia fired an arrow. The arrow soared through the air in a curved arc until it penetrated the soul refiner's leg. "Arg!" he shouted in pain. The first energy coursing through her veins was several times more powerful than the celestial energy. It went through the fire covering the soul refiner and penetrated his legs. He stumbled in the air, losing his balance. Before he could fight the pain and flap his fiery wings, Nightmare opened his mouth. Gaia immediately felt her feet numb due to the sudden chill in Nightmare's body. Nightmare's throat glowed from within in an icy blue color. Suddenly, a stream of frost shot out toward the soul refiner. He looked over his shoulder, but it was too late. The frost hit him and formed a thin layer of ice on his skin. Most of the frost energy was vaporized by the fire. Nonetheless, the fire couldn't put out the frost completely. Gaia used this opportunity to fire several golden arrows one after another. The man cried in mid-air as blood splattered out. At that time, Nightmare caught up with him. As the man was bleeding, Gaia leaped onto him from Nightmare's back with the bow in her hand. In mid-air, she poured all her energy into the next arrow. The arrow glowed brighter to the point that the soul refiner closed his eyes when he turned around. Gaia let go of the arrow as it soared toward him. Golden sparkles flew around the arrow. One could hear a buzzing sound resonating from the arrow. The soul refiner raised his hand to block the arrow instinctively. However, it penetrated his hand and went straight through his head. The flames faded away from his body before his lifeless corpse fell from the sky. Gaia was about to fly back to Nightmare when she saw the shadowy silhouette of the royal dragon under the clouds. "Look out!" Gaia shouted at Nightmare. Nightmare immediately sensed a danger. His instincts screamed at him to fly above quickly. "Always listen to your gut. It will save your life every time," Ghost's words sounded in Nightmare's mind. Without a second thought, Nightmare flapped his wings using all his might. The force of his flap pushed his body several meters higher in the sky in a blink of an eye. As he flew higher in the sky, he saw the royal dragon's wide jaw snap into the air where he was a few seconds ago. If Gaia hadn't warned him and he hadn't listened to his gut feeling, he would have stuck in the royal dragon's mouth. After failing to catch Nightmare, the royal dragon again flew into the clouds. It used the clouds as cover. Only the flashes of lightning revealed the dragon's shadow in the clouds. "That fucking lizard looks bigger than the last time," Gaia growled the moment she landed on Nightmare's body. "How many soul refiners left?" asked Nightmare. 3 or 4. "I don't think we can catch them on time." "It's time to bring in the backup," said Gaia. "Azazel, you're up, forgive my impatience, my lady." "I am here already," Gaia heard Azazel's voice in her head. She couldn't help sensing a tinge of excitement in his voice. "Ah!" A scream filled with agonizing pain echoed through the air. Due to the heavy snowfall and the storm clouds, even Nightmare and Gaia couldn't see everything clearly. Fortunately, a light flashed across the sky, illuminating everything in the sky. Gaia saw Azazel holding 2 soul refiners by their necks for a split second. Since Azazel was soul-bound to Michael, his power was directly dependent on Michael. Simply put, Azazel's power grew with Michael's power. Hence, when Michael entered his godhood, breaking through to the half-immortal stage, Azazel became a fusion stage level 3 cultivator. His demon powers enabled him to mimic Michael's spells. Although they weren't as powerful as the source, the soul refiners stood no chance against those spells. Azazel used Ignitia to break their shields and ended their lives with Wind Blast or Ring of Fire. If Azazel didn't have wings on his back, Nightmare would have mistaken him for Ghost. Azazel traveled through the clouds using Lightning Dash. Hence, Gaia was able to see streaks of golden bolts of lightning in the sky. Back on the ocean, Hubert sailed forward against the storm. Almost a quarter of the fleet was decimated by the mortar shells. If that wasn't bad enough, the wind was also against them. As a result, their ships couldn't move as fast as he had hoped. Standing beside Hubert, Albert noticed several bodies falling down from the sky. The sky above them lit up with various colors like gold, violet, icy blue, and jade green. But they didn't terrify the soldiers as the red spotlight. Few more minutes, and they'll be in our firing range. Out of the blue, Nightmare dived down through the clouds. The Thusians on Hubert's ship were almost thrown off balance by Nightmare's speed. He was so close that his body touched the masts. "Duck!" Albert ordered, fearing the dragon might breathe fire upon them. In stark contrast, they saw the dragon breathing frost and forming an ice wall on the ocean. "Shatter the walls!" Hubert shouted as the soldiers began to cast spells. Nightmare's frost almost froze the sea. He took a complete 180 turn to return toward the Thusian ships. This time, Nightmare breathed frost on the ships. The stream of icy blue frost several ships in a line. The soldiers were turned into ice statues, as well as their ships. "Look over there!" Hubert heard Albert shout. He jerked his head to the side to see a girl slaughtering the crews on a ship next to them. She moved through the upper deck like a blowing wind. The soldiers couldn't even track her movements. Hubert saw her stab the soldiers with the golden arrow in her hand. "Fire!" Albert ordered the ships. The Thusians immediately bombarded the ship Gaia was on with all they got. However, they were too late. Gaia leaped into the air. At that same time, Nightmare came flying to her. She landed on his back and disappeared into the clouds. "Where is the royal dragon?" Albert shouted. His eyes turned bloodshot with fury. They were getting slaughtered left and right. Albert thought the Thusian naval army was undefeatable, and they had all the state-of-the-art weapons. Today, he was proven wrong. Ghost and his army bested their strategy, their formation, and everything with overwhelming power. They rained death and destruction from above. "Someone else is there." Hubert saw a silhouette of a man with wings in the clouds fighting the royal dragon. Although the man's figure looked tiny and almost unnoticeable compared to the royal dragon, Hubert's sight was keen. That was no mistake. Hubert saw him. A man with wings. "General, they are sailing away." Another soldier's shout snapped Albert out of his shock. He quickly used his spyglass to glance at the hostile ships. His vision was completely blurred because of the storm and the heavy snowfall. Still, he could vaguely see the hostile ships sailing away from them. "They are trying to get away from our firing range." Albert shouted. The only way to fight back was to fire back. Except, they could do that only if the hostile ships were in their firing range. Albert panicked. As long as the hostile ships were out of their firing range, they would rain down mortar shells and decimate their ships from a distance. "Albert!" Hubert had to shout despite the short distance between him and his grandson. The howling wind made communicating without amplifying his voice with arch energy a pain. "General!" Albert came running to Hubert. "I am going to give you the command and deal with those ships myself." "General, let me come with you." Albert raised his voice. "No," Hubert shook his head. "I need you to lead our army here." No dash, this is an order, soldier. Hubert shook Albert by his shoulder. After hearing Hubert's last words, Albert couldn't argue with him anymore. Yes, General. Albert slammed his chest with his fist, saluting Hubert. Second in command Albert will be in charge while I am away. Heed his commands as they were mine. The Thusians were taken aback by surprise. But the veterans knew it was the right move. If Hubert had gone to the other side and destroyed the long-range cannons, they might have a chance to turn the tides of this battle. Yes, General. The Thusians shouted in unison. Hubert threw a last glance at Albert before shooting toward the sky. In a few seconds, he disappeared into the clouds. As much as Albert wanted to follow his grandfather, he had responsibilities. As a proud Mertz, he put duty before family. Full sail. Albert raised his voice. Give me everything you have. I want those bastards in our range yesterday. Albert's orders echoed through the air. As they were sailing forward, streaks of lightning flashed across the sky. They almost turned the night into a day for a split second. Then, violent roars of the dragons overshadowed the rumbling thunder. At that moment, for some strange reason, Albert felt like he was being stared at by a god from above. Chapter 7:16 Above the clouds, Hubert flew like an arrow shot out from a bow. He cut through the clouds against the snow and the howling wind. A tornado formed right between the Thusian army and their foes. This tornado brought down the wrath of gods as streaks of lightning struck down without a break. As he was flying forward, he saw the royal dragon in the distance. It was battling with the man with wings. Steam of violet flames shot out of the dragon's mouth. Hubert searched for the frost-breathing dragon and the girl. But they were nowhere to be found. His neck hairs suddenly stood up as though there was some danger nearby. He quickly swayed his body before dashing away to the side. Only then did he realize that he had missed a golden arrow to the head by an inch. He turned around to fight the frost-breathing dragon and the girl. Hubert had a feeling this girl might be as strong as him or stronger. Furthermore, she was with a dragon which gave her an overwhelming advantage. But to his surprise, the girl jumped off the dragon. The two of them stared at each other as the dragon flew into the clouds, disappearing from Hubert's sight. Hubert Mertz, General of the Thusian Naval Army. Mentor to Booth and King Maxim himself, you seem to know me, said Hubert. It's my duty as a general to know my foes, Hubert clenched his fist. He recalled everything he had read in the reports from Zulon and Suvin. She paraded the corpses of the fallen Thusian soldiers to inflict fear. Such a brutal tactic for a gentle-looking girl. Order your men to stand down. We can avoid all this death and bloodshed, said Gaia. She looked down on the sea to see Thusian ships sinking to the bottom of the ocean. The mortars were as powerful as Michael had explained. Seeing them in a real battle showed Gaia why Ghost and Elidor spent such a long time creating this weapon. Even if the Thusians had brought airships, those would have fallen down like dead flies. You don't look like you're into this war, old man. To me, you look tired, want to retire, and live somewhere peacefully. You know King Maxim started this war, and you know he wouldn't give you a choice if you were his foe, young lady, Hubert smiled. You are right. I do want to do all those things. But I am a soldier, and it's a soldier's duty to follow his order. Now, my order is to win this battle. So that's what I am going to do, or I'll die trying, Gaia sighed. You're just another good man who's willing to die for a sick fuck. The bow and arrow materialized in Gaia's hands. Hubert was about to cast a spell when he felt a sting in his neck. He hissed, slapping the back of his neck. A drop of blood was on his palm. What did you do? Asked Hubert. There is no time, General Hubert. Your men are waiting for you to destroy their foes. What do you guys call our mortars anyways? Gaia chuckled. You know, I would have loved a good battle, but he has other plans. Hubert's vision blurred. He could feel the strength in his body disappearing. You are a great general and one of the most powerful people in the world. But to us, to him, you're not special in any way. Just another man to be killed, said Gaia. Hubert's breathing became heavy. Each breath took a toll on his body. Furthermore, he slowly lost the connection with his celestial and arch-energy in his body. In a different timeline, your story would have been longer. Gaia slowly raised her bow. Hubert wanted to cast a spell to protect himself. However, he simply couldn't feel any energy. He was able to stay afloat in the air barely. Your story ends here, Gaia said. She was about to release the golden arrow when Hubert looked her in the eyes and said, As a general to general, please spare my grandson's life. Hubert realized this was his end. He never thought he would die like this without even putting up a fight. As a general, he utterly failed and let down his men. In his last moments of life, the most he could do was plead for his grandson's life. You had a chance. Now it's gone. Gaia released the arrow. Hubert felt a sharp pain in his chest. When he looked down, he saw an arrow sticking into his chest. He gritted his teeth, trying to fight the pain. But the very next moment, everything turned dark. The last thing he saw was another golden arrow soaring toward him. Gaia didn't feel a bit of pity for Hubert. These generals supported King Maxim in every step. In a way, they were responsible for what happened to Michael's sanctuary. She watched Hubert's body fall down from the sky. Finding his body through all the ship parts floating on the ocean would be near impossible. Far away from Gaia, Nightmare kept breathing frost onto the sea, forming a wall to slow down the fusions. The royal dragon was occupied with Azazel in a fierce battle. It's time, Nightmare heard Azazel's voice in his head. With a flap of his wings, Nightmare gained enough altitude to disappear into the clouds. On his way, Gaia landed back on him. Is it done? Asked Nightmare. It's done, Gaia nodded. The two of them flew toward Azazel and the royal dragon. The closer they got to them, the hotter the air became. The heat radiating from the royal dragon's body melted the snowflakes. As a result, Gaia and Nightmare got drenched by a heavy downpour. The royal dragon flew left and right, trying to bite Azazel. Violet flames shot out of its mouth to burn down Azazel. Gaia could tell the dragon and Azazel were at a stalemate. Suppose the royal dragon brought backup, this battle would have gone in a different way. Yet, the royal dragon was too proud to fight along with anyone else. Its pride would be its downfall. While the sea was filled with dead bodies, burning ships, and a freaking tornado, a group of soldiers gathered in one of the buildings in the Golden Port. They watched their men getting slaughtered left and right without lifting a finger. General Franklin witnessed the death and destruction rained upon the Thusian army from above. Unlike General Hubert, General Franklin was young. None would tell he was older than 50 or 55. He was bald, masculine, and taller than an average human. The noticeable thing about Franklin was his metal arm. He lost his right arm, saving King Maxim from an assassination attempt. King Maxim showed his gratitude by tasking his best engineers to build this metal arm instead of finding a 6-star healer to help Franklin grow a new arm. To be honest, Franklin liked this new arm of his. Although he wanted to fight alongside the Thusian naval army, he had his orders. No matter what, they were ordered to stay hidden until Ghost showed up. When he did, he and his men had to engage him and kill him with the Immortal killing spear. All of his men wore the same dark robes to blend in with the dark sky. His unit consisted of 50 men. They were all plucked from the Thusian Royal Academy, the best of the best. These youngsters were dying to prove themselves. If General Booth had given them and ordered him to kill Ghost, a half-immortal, Franklin would have laughed his ass off. But it wasn't the case. General Booth gave these men an immortal killing weapon and, more importantly, a plan that could work. None of them uttered a word despite all the death and destruction. They were trained to speak when they were spoken to. Franklin and his men had no expressions on their faces. To them, all that mattered was Ghost and his death. Meanwhile, Gaia and Nightmare finally joined Azazel. The moment the royal dragon saw Nightmare, its eyes turned predatory. It bore its teeth and roared. His roar was filled with vengeance. Azazel quickly jumped onto Nightmare's back beside Gaia. The royal dragon flapped its wings as it started to chase after Nightmare. But instead of flying forward, Nightmare flew upwards. The royal dragon's massive body turned into a colossal disadvantage as gravity pulled the royal dragon down more than it pulled down Nightmare. Gaia turned around, firing arrow after arrow at the royal dragon. On the other hand, Azazel used the wind blast to hit the dragon before it could use the dragon's breath. Nightmare flew higher and higher against the wind. Breathing became difficult for both Nightmare and Gaia. Nightmare flew higher to the point they no longer saw any storm or snowfall. The royal dragon opened its mouth wide to sink its teeth into Nightmare. Gaia held onto the spikes on Nightmare's spine to avoid losing her balance. Now would be a good time, Gaia shouted, looking at the violet glow inside the royal dragon's mouth. She felt the temperature rising by several degrees. It was evident the royal dragon was about to use its dragon breath. She could swear she saw the royal dragon grin devilishly. Nightmare was exhausted. Every flap of his wing took a great effort. Finally, Nightmare lost his strength. He closed his eyes as the royal dragon opened its mouth as wide as it could. Anyone in this situation would panic or shout, but not Gaia. A grin emerged on her face. When Nightmare was about to fall down, a bolt of lightning struck the royal dragon from above. The lightning bolt struck straight into its wide-open mouth. However, it was not just a lightning bolt. Instead, it was Ghost who flew straight into the dragon's mouth using the lightning dash. The moment Michael went into the royal dragon's mouth, the dragon's predatory eyes glistened with pain. The smell of burning flesh overwhelmed their senses. Why? Because Michael covered himself with the dark flames. Chapter 7:17 The royal dragon roared in pain. Michael traveled into the dragon's body, burning everything in his path. Just imagining Michael inside the dragon made Gaia feel the urge to throw up. She wouldn't have done that under any circumstance. The royal dragon dived down. Blood spurted out from its belly. There was nothing the royal dragon could do to stop Michael. The royal dragon tried to spit out Michael, but only blood and a blob of saliva shot out of its mouth. That fucking lizard, Gaia noticed the royal dragon flying toward the pirate ships. She leaped off from Nightmare's back as she flew toward the royal dragon. She caught up with the dragon in a few blinks of an eye. The dragon glanced at Gaia from the corner of its eyes. It roared. Gaia grabbed the side of the dragon's face, ignoring the dragon's roar. Gaia used every bit of her strength to force the dragon to turn around. If the royal dragon landed on their ships, its massive body would crush several ships, including Big Bertha. Ghost, if you hear me, this bastard is heading for our ships. Kill it faster, said Gaia. As though Michael had heard her words, the dragon roared in agony. Gaia punched the dragon as she put all her strength into pushing the dragon to the other side. Nightmare dived down through the clouds, hitting the royal dragon like a freight train. He bit the royal dragon's wings, almost tearing it off. On the other hand, Azazel also joined Gaia. It took all the strength in their bodies to finally turn around the dragon. Considering they were close to the dragon, they were able to hear a thumping sound coming from within the dragon. The royal dragon slowly lost its strength. Its inside was burnt to jelly by the dark flames. The light of life slowly faded away from its eyes. Victoria, to their shock, the dragon roared Victoria's name. For the first time, they heard the royal dragon speak. The moment the dragon roared, a fist came out of the dragon's skull. Hot blood splattered on Gaia's face. It felt almost like hot lava. The dragon let out a final roar before starting to fall down. Gaia flew down and held the dragon's body on her shoulder. Veins popped up on her skin as she gritted. Every muscle in her body tensed up, carrying the massive dragon. Azazel and Nightmare did not let Gaia share the weight alone. They joined her as Azazel took the dragon's head and Nightmare lifted its lower belly. The three of them slowly turned around and headed toward the Thusian ships. Albert led the Thusians toward the pirate ships. He was able to navigate the ship around the tornado. The storm was a blessing disguised as a curse. Thanks to the storm, the mortar shells missed their target due to the heavy wind. Albert prayed to his grandfather to destroy the mortars. However, deep down, he knew something was amiss. If his grandfather had succeeded, the red spotlights would have disappeared. Instead, he saw the royal dragon flying through the storm clouds. For a moment, Albert and the crew felt relieved. But their relief was short-lived. He felt something was wrong. When he looked closely at the royal dragon, he saw no movement in the dragon's body. It didn't flap its wings a single time. Albert quickly grabbed the rails in one hand to balance himself and used his spyglass to see another dragon right under the royal dragon. He moved his spyglass and saw a girl and a man with wings carrying the royal dragon. His hands automatically moved the spyglass toward the dragon's eyes. Only then did he notice the lack of light of life in its eyes. He realized it was dead. Albert's heart skipped a beat. "They are going to drop the dragon on us," he shouted. Abandoned ship. Albert saw no other options. Even if they cast their most powerful spells, it would be impossible to destroy the royal dragon's body into pieces. Once it hit the ship, there was no surviving the explosion. Hence, Albert decided to abandon the ship. At least his men had a better chance of flying away. As Albert predicted, the royal dragon's colossal body fell on them with enough force to shake the entire sea. At least 20 to 30 ships were blasted off from the sea by force. Countless ships sunk under the weight of the royal dragon. The moment the dragon hit the ocean, the collision force resulted in massive tsunami waves. The waves completely overthrew the frontline ships and destroyed their formation. It was the final nail in their coffin. Albert barely managed to escape the blast. He hovered in the air with a heavy heart, looking at his ship sinking into the ocean. He clenched his fist. They were utterly defeated. Suddenly, a bolt of golden lightning struck the royal dragon. His hands instinctively covered his eyes. The flash was too bright. When he moved his hands to the side, he saw a figure slowly emerging from the lifeless corpse of the royal dragon. He was completely covered in blood. But the heavy downpour washed off the blood from his body, revealing his identity. "Ghost," Albert mumbled. Albert's nail plunged into his palm. He couldn't keep his anger in control when he saw Ghost smiling at all the death and destruction. The burning ships almost turned the dark night brighter. Michael had a glass bottle in his hand. It contained the blood of the royal dragon. Thanks to Gaia and Nightmare killing the soul refiners, Michael was able to reach the half-immortal stage level 6 when he slew the royal dragon. He summoned the system to take a look at his status window. Host, Michael Cultivation level, half-immortal level 6 godhood, fledgling god experience points, 0/5, 000, 000 badass points. 800,000 skills and spells, Wind Blast, LVL 6 Ultimate Form Level 1 Eyes of Doom, LVL 5 Ultimate Form Level 1 Responsive Shield, LVL 8 Environment Scanning, LVL8 Ignitia, LVL8 Ultimate Form Level 1 Salinis, LVL1 Lightning Dash, LVL6 Ultimate Form Level 1 Energy Devour, LVL5 Soul Eater, LVL5 Death Range, LVL3 Eyes of Darkness, Normal, can sense the cultivation level of others. Eyes of Darkness, Lucifer, can sense the cultivation level of others, can see through illusions. Cloud of Darkness, Lucifer, weak-willed enemies will lose their courage completely and surrender. Death range will be 50% more powerful, and if activated in darkness, the host's cultivation level will be boosted 4 levels up regardless of the stage barrier. Wordless spell caster, Lucifer, in full Lucifer form, the host just has to think of the spell to cast it. Techniques: Swords of Destiny, 98% Mastery Ring of Fire, 94% Mastery Serpent Maga, 98% Mastery Occupation, the Guardian of Sunrise Sect Lord Lucifer of the Abyssal the Dark Lord status, Healthy Goals, Control the World Rebuild the Order of Death Utility Function, Banker, LVL5, Ratio, 1000 Gold Coins, 40 Badass Points, Runic Teleportation X-Ray Vision, also integrated with Eyes of Darkness, Wealth, 15 million Gold Special Trait, 5-star Alchemist 5-star Inventor Subordinates, Gaia, Warrior, Loyalty. Level 100%, Raylene, 5-star Chef, Loyalty level 99%, Arya, Assassin, Loyalty level 89%, Maxine, Warrior, Loyalty level 98%, Tiberius, Warrior, Loyalty level 75%, Sadie, Loyalty level 60%, Ricky, Loyalty level 98%, Titus, Loyalty level 70%, Optimus, Loyalty level 70%, Big Bertha Crew, Pirates, Loyalty level 93%, Base of Operation, Sunrise Sect the Abyssal the Crypt Familiars, Nightmare, Forest Dragon, Vidora, Three-Headed Hydra, Elemental Manipulation, Wind 20% Mastery, Fire 20% Mastery, Lightning 30%. Mastery, Darkness 35%, Michael was neither happy nor disappointed at himself. All he felt was the urge to be stronger. The destruction of Thusian's ships made him happier than seeing his status window. He clenched his fist. He wanted to kill the rest of the Thusians. As soon as he exited the system, he sensed several people rushing toward him from all directions. "Let me take care of them," Michael heard Gaia's voice. But he raised his hand, wordlessly telling her to stand down. "Take care of the soldiers. Destroy half of their ships, and I will take over the rest," Gaia finished Michael's words. The soldiers flew straight toward him. All wore identical clothes. They covered their heads with dark cloaks. Michael wondered what they were trying to achieve by heading straight toward him. The strongest one among them was a fusion stage level 4 cultivator. Even if they were all fusion stage cultivators, they would have no choice. The majority of the soldiers were at the core formation stage. Michael was confused. Still, Michael did not underestimate them. He flew away from the battlefield into the dark clouds. He quickly cast the lightning dash to increase his speed. The distance between Michael and the soldiers grew quickly. Michael did not slow until he flew straight into the tornado itself. By doing this, Michael tested the soldiers' resolve to kill him. In other words, Michael wanted to see how badly they wanted him dead. To Michael's surprise, the soldiers did not slow down, not even a bit. Michael slowly disappeared into the dark tornado. The soldiers finally slowed down a bit. They couldn't locate Michael. "Use the tracking scroll," Franklin, the leader of the elite death squad, ordered his men. One of them quickly took out a glowing silver parchment. A single rune radiated a bright silvery light. The soldier quickly tore it in half as the glowing rune appeared in the air above them. In the center of the tornado, Michael saw a thin yet bright layer of light appear on him. The soldiers immediately turned their heads toward Michael's direction as though they had seen him through the tornado. "You guys never learn," Franklin heard Ghost's words echo through the air. "But thanks for making me stronger," Franklin heard Ghost laugh. Franklin felt his neck hair stand up. Before he could react, hundreds of golden lightning bolts struck from above. He immediately took out another scroll, tore it, and teleported away. Those who managed to react in time escaped. The others just fell from the sky with one or more holes in their bodies. "Teleportation won't save you," said Ghost. "Raven maneuver," Franklin shouted. Michael saw the remaining soldiers flying in some kind of formation. They all raised their hands as their bodies multiply in number. These illusions were meant to disorient Michael. This time, Michael felt his neck hair stand up. He immediately dashed away, missing the golden spear to his heart by a few inches. The golden spear disappeared before Michael could take a closer look. Finally, Michael realized their plan. "An immortal killing weapon," Michael mumbled under his breath. He could tell their plan was to confuse Michael, hide the spear and stab him with it when he least expected. The plan would have worked if Michael had not upgraded his environmental scanning. Chapter 7:18 Michael cracked his neck as the death squad surrounded him. The soldiers quickly cast various spells to protect themselves from him. They tore some scrolls to boost their strengths. Although Michael did not know what these scrolls would do, he could tell they were fully prepared to face him. Furthermore, the soldiers hid the golden spear. Michael scanned them all with his X-ray vision, yet he was unable to see who was holding the spear. It seemed to him they had used some powerful runes to hide the weapon from his sight. Panther formation. Michael saw the fusion stage warrior shout. Following his order, the soldiers took out a yellowish pill and tossed it into their mouths. Michael was surprised by the energy radiation from the pill. They were all at least 96% pure pills, which meant they were concocted by a 6-star alchemist. Michael looked at the soldiers curiously to see what the pill could do. They soon quenched Michael's thirst for curiosity by dashing toward Michael faster than a typical core formation warrior's abilities. Granted, they were now here close to Michael's speed, but they were fast enough to make a soul refiner lose their sight. To Michael's surprise, a golden spear appeared in everyone's hand. Not that Michael had no way of finding out the real spear, he just wanted to try something else. Michael hovered in the air without moving an inch. He didn't even cast a spell. The soldiers didn't hesitate to strike Michael. Instead, they dashed at him with the ferocity of a beast and swung the golden spears left and right. The spear cut through Michael's clothes. Still, none of the spear strikes hurt his skin. After being tempered by the lightning strikes when he crossed the heavenly tribulation, his body became tough as metal. Normal weapons such as these golden spears stood no chance of hurting him, unlike the real golden spear. On the other hand, Gaia, Nightmare, and Azazel slaughtered the soldiers on the sea. The more people they killed, the more experience points Michael earned. Azazel especially turned into a killing machine. He didn't even use any spells but killed them with his bare hands. At that moment, Gaia landed on a frigate. Nightmare breathed frost around the ship, freezing the water to prevent the ship from moving. The strongest soldier on the deck was a core formation warrior. He was busy turning the rudder until Gaia sent an arrow straight through his head. His crew panicked. Several chakras appeared around Gaia as the remaining soldiers began to cast spells. However, Azazel landed directly on the center of the deck. He flapped his wings, sending a powerful gust of wind. Some soldiers were immediately knocked down by the wind's force. Azazel leaped into the air before landing right beside two soldiers. The soldiers panicked, and before they could react, Azazel grabbed their heads. Gaia saw their heads explode like watermelons. Until now, Gaia had never seen the demon side of Azazel. Truth be told, she almost forgot Azazel was a demon and not a butler. He mimicked Michael's lightning dash to wreak havoc on the deck. In a couple of seconds, Gaia saw several bloody veils of mist in the air. Eventually, the soldiers fell down without their heads. Nightmare's kills were less brutal than Azazel's. He just flew above the ship, breathing frost to freeze the soldiers. After he froze them completely, Nightmare landed on the ship with enough force to shatter the frozen soldiers. Gaia only focused on killing the strongest one on the ship. He let Nightmare and Azazel have fun. What's happening there? Gaia looked at the swirling tornado. He couldn't see anyone or anything except blue bolts of lightning. Deep inside the tornado, the Death Squad soldiers led by Franklin went all in. They cut Michael's clothes into pieces. Michael ripped off his top, revealing his chiseled muscles. He waited for the real immortal killing spear to strike him. "Star formation," Franklin shouted. They couldn't even make Ghost bleed a drop of blood until now. This was the first time Franklin had fought a half-immortal. He read about how tough their bodies were, but it was still shocking to experience it in person. Whenever Franklin cut Ghost with the golden spear made of pure arch energy, he felt like he was cutting a metal block. He had a feeling Ghost was toying with them. He didn't even try to move or cast a spell. Instead, he hovered over the air, letting his soldiers attack him from all directions. Unlike Albert, Franklin didn't believe Hubert was still alive. If he was, the Thusians wouldn't be getting bombarded with mortar to this moment. The star formation was a code word to strike Ghost with the real immortal killing spear. Before the battle, the Death Squad had a meeting to finalize their attack plan with Edith. She wasn't a strategist, but Franklin and his men received many powerful scrolls from her. According to her, Ghost possessed an ability to see how strong his foes were despite the void effect. Hence, they decided to keep rotating the spear between the soldiers instead of Franklin keeping it. Since he was the strongest among them, Ghost would naturally target him, and if he had the spear, Ghost could kill and take the spear to himself. At that time, there would be nothing left to stop him. Franklin knew Ghost was underestimating them. That was the reason he was letting them attack him. Franklin decided to use his arrogance against him. As soon as the soldiers heard Franklin's order, they moved to form the star formation. Ghost was the center of their formation. The soldiers dashed forward with lightning speed. From the ground level, Gaia saw flashes of bright lights inside the dark tornado. When Franklin was a few meters away from Ghost, he flicked his wrist as the golden spear materialized in his hand. He did not wait for Ghost to turn around. 3 soldiers stabbed Ghost with their golden spears at the same time. This time, one of them was the real immortal killing weapon, and Franklin held it. As he and his men practiced, they transferred the rune to summon the real spear to Franklin at the very last second. The moment he received the rune, he summoned the spear and plunged it straight through Ghost's heart. Ghost coughed up blood as he grabbed the spear sticking out through his chest. Franklin twisted the spear. The images of his team getting struck by lightning bolts flashed across his eyes. He pushed the spear deeper. The soldiers finally stopped flying around Michael. They all felt relieved. Blood trickled down Ghost's mouth. "This is for all the Thusians you killed," Franklin growled. He pulled the spear and stabbed Ghost again. Although they fought wars from all sides continuously, they had never felt terrified until Ghost took over the cities they conquered in a couple of days. He wiped off the entire battalion led by powerful generals without breaking a sweat. For the first time, every soldier in Thusia felt the sprout of fear growing in their hearts. Seeing Ghost bleed and cough out blood was worth all the men and ships they had lost. Without Ghost, they could wipe off the resistance in a week or two. When Franklin stabbed Ghost for the 4th time, the soldiers felt relieved. But their relief was short-lived. Suddenly, a grin appeared on Ghost's face. He grabbed the spear and pulled it out of him. Franklin struggled to keep the spear in his hand as Ghost was too strong. "How did it feel?" asked Ghost. He spat out the blood. The devilish grin on his face sent chills running down their spines. Yet again, Michael spat a mouth full of blood. Despite the blood, his face showed no signs of pain. Franklin grabbed the spear with his 2 hands. Still, he couldn't overpower Ghost. "Back me up!" Franklin shouted as the soldiers rushed to his aid. Some grabbed the spear, while some grabbed Michael's hands. At that moment, almost 30 soldiers struggled against Michael. "Shit," Franklin growled. He felt he was slowly losing the spear to Ghost. Wind blast. Suddenly, a powerful gust of wind blasted everyone away from Ghost. They flung away like kites without an anchor in a storm. When Franklin regained his balance, he saw the golden spear in Ghost's hands. Franklin poured his energy into the summoning rune to call the spear back to him. The golden spear frantically trembled in Michael's hands until Franklin saw the rune on his palm shatter. Ghost finally moved his head upwards to take a look at Franklin. The wounds on his chest closed up in a few blinks of an eye. Michael raised the spear, swinging it playfully. How did it feel to have some hope? How did it feel when that hope shattered just like that? Michael snapped. "Your whole plan depended on this, right? What did you expect? You stabbed me with it, saying some bullshit, and I'd die like a villain." Michael's chuckle echoed through the air. "Nightmare, it's time," Franklin heard Michael. The very next moment, Michael dashed at Franklin. He appeared before him in a blink of an eye. Franklin immediately cast a spell as an ethereal bow and arrow appeared behind him. The gigantic bow and arrow lit the sky with its brightness. When Michael grabbed Franklin by his neck, the bow released the giant arrow. The arrow hit Michael. To Franklin's surprise, the arrow shattered into sparks of fire. He saw a translucent shield appear around Ghost for a moment before the arrow hit him. Franklin felt Ghost's grab around his neck tighten. He heard a thunderous roar. It was difficult for him to move his head. Still, he was able to see a dragon's shadow in the sky below them. While Franklin struggled under Michael's grab, Nightmare reached the bottom of the tornado. He flew around it, breathing frost onto the tornado. Gaia couldn't help raising her brows when she saw Nightmare freezing the entire tornado from down to the top. The temperature dropped by several degrees as Franklin watched his men getting froze to death without being able to do anything. "What are you?" Franklin barely managed to utter these words. "A god." Chapter 719, Stab him with it, and the runes I engraved in it will take care of the rest, Franklin recalled Edith's words. He and his men were told that Ghost would die if he stabbed Ghost with the spear. On the contrary, nothing happened to Ghost. Even without Edith's runes, Franklin lived long enough to know a half-immortal could be killed with an immortal killing weapon. This spear was not like other immortal killing weapons. Instead, it was forged using several bones of a level 10 immortal and drenched in the immortal's blood for a year. He knew it should have killed Ghost. Michael lifted Franklin up. He was about to snap Franklin's neck when he sensed someone appears behind him. None of Franklin's men survived Nightmare's frost breath. The majority of them were stuck inside the frozen tornado, while a few were shot down from the sky by Gaia. It was Albert who decided to face Michael. Michael slowly turned around without letting go of Franklin. "Who are you?" Michael creased his brows. Not that Michael was ridiculing Albert, he seriously didn't know him. "Did you kill General Hubert?" asked Albert. Michael didn't respond to Albert. Instead, he pointed his finger at Albert. The golden lightning bolt crackled around Michael's fist before shooting toward Albert. Before Albert could react, a golden bolt of lightning penetrated his head. In the end, Albert couldn't keep his word to Hubert. Michael ended his life within a snap of time. Showing before Michael wearing the armor of Thusia was equal to killing themselves. Franklin saw the last member of the proud Mertz family falling from the sky. It made him wonder whether this was Thusia's end. Yes, he said as though Ghost had read his mind. Franklin suddenly felt a sharp pain in his neck before everything around him turned dark. Finally, Michael let go of Franklin's body. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current stage is half Immortal level 8, thanks to Gaia, Azazel, and Nightmare slaughtering the soldiers. Michael was able to get to level 8 without much effort. After he killed Franklin, Gaia flew straight to Michael. Because Nightmare had frozen the tornado and the pirate ship stopped destroying the Thusian ships, the sea finally calmed down. Even from afar, Michael could smell the burning flesh and oil in the air. "That's a nice spear," Gaia said, looking at the spear. "Not just a spear. An immortal killing spear." Michael told everything that happened, from the death squad appearance to Franklin stabbing him with the spear. The moment Gaia heard Michael let Franklin stab him, she squeezed Michael's shoulders. Her eyes glistened with anger and concern. "What the hell were you thinking?" Gaia almost slapped Michael. "Relax. If any immortal killing weapon could kill me, Qin Jiao and the Maze Roth founders wouldn't have made god-killing arrows. But it's good to confirm I cannot be killed with these things." Michael looked at the golden spear in his hand. "Please don't be too haughty, host. Although these weapons cannot kill you, you will lose your cultivation if you get stabbed through your head. If you get beheaded, your skills and spells will be reset to level 1, and you will float as a soul until the system finds you a body. It might take a week, a month, or even decades." The system sounded like it was yelling at Michael. The system's response wasn't a big surprise to Michael. "So we have to prioritize finding the god-killing arrows and the armor pieces you told me about earlier," said Gaia. "I already found one piece." Michael used the system to find one of his armor pieces for 300,000 badass points. He didn't know how many pieces there were. However, if his past self left these armor in pieces, it meant he did that for a reason. Most probably, his past self did not want others or the Sky Hall to find the armor. He must have known his future self would use the system to find those armor pieces and assemble the armor. Michael wondered what made his past self reset an entire universe. He had few clues after hearing about Gaia's dream and his journey into various universes. "But if you pull any shit like this again, I will finish what the Sky Hall couldn't." "Of course you will, my dear Queenie." Michael wrapped his arm around her shoulder, pulling her closer to him. "My lord." Azazel flew directly to Michael. He bowed his head. His body was completely drenched with blood, and his eyes were with excitement. "You had a good time?" asked Michael. "I have to say, my lord. I'd love to experience this feeling again." "Keep your battle lust in check, Azazel. Don't let it go to your head," Gaia advised Azazel. After seeing how he slaughtered those soldiers, Gaia feared Azazel might become too addicted to killing people. Michael also noticed the glistening lust for blood in his eyes. He had seen the same battle lust in Spectre's eyes. But Michael did not say anything because he would take time to train all of his subordinates. He had ways to break one's lust for blood. "Azazel, head to the dark forest and get yourself cleaned up. I want you to keep a close eye on all our people. I have a feeling the Thusians will hit back harder after this." "As you wish, my lord." Azazel bowed toward Michael and Gaia before vanishing into thin air. Nightmare came flying to Michael as Gaia and Michael leaped onto his back. Several ships carrying King Gunnar and King Baldur's army finally reached the docks. Big Bertha did not come closer to the Golden Port but teleported back to the southern continent using Elidar's teleportation array. Now that Michael's naval army had wiped off almost 2/3 of the Thusian army, he let the army deal to occupy the Golden Port. Michael didn't bother to check on the army. Instead, he returned to King Gunnar's castle. Surprisingly, King Gunnar was there to welcome Michael, Gaia, and Nightmare with Yagner, General Bryce, and Prince Devarius. Their faces were brimming with delight. The three of them watched the Thusians getting destroyed by Ghost's naval army while they were inside the Thusian warehouse. Although they were terrified by the power of Ghost's naval army, they were glad he was against Wuxia. Moreover, they robbed the warehouse clean. They knew that would certainly hurt the Thusians in their war. While walking toward them, Michael willed the system to equip a new set of clothes. Master Ghost, how's the war going? We saw your naval army was destroying the Thusians left and right. General Bryce grinned from ear to ear. It's over. We won. The golden port is yours. The smiles on their faces froze. You should quickly visit there and solidify the defenses. We don't want the Thusians to hit back, do we? Said Michael. Plus, your men need you until I finish some things up here, said Gaia. I assume you did your job well, Yagner nodded. Good. We can discuss it later. Now I have something else to do. Please excuse me, of course, King Gunnar said. Leaving them behind, Michael headed toward his room. What are we doing? Asked Nightmare. He jumped onto the bed. Michael quickly closed the door and the curtains. Afterward, Michael willed the system to teleport them to the pocket dimension in the dark forest. Since the pocket dimension wasn't affected by winter, they felt warm and cozy. However, Michael was not in the mood to take a break. Instead, he took out the bottle filled with the royal dragon's blood. System, I have the royal dragon blood. So it's time to make Nightmare a royal dragon. It would cost the host 50,000 badass points, I know. Now tell me, what's the procedure? Asked Michael. Immediately, his badass points were reduced by 50,000. Please be advised the process of changing Nightmare's body from the molecular level will take up to a week. During this time, Nightmare will be unconscious, noted. Michael nodded. You just need to inject the blood into Nightmare and let the system take care of the rest. An 8-inch syringe materialized in Michael's hand. Just the sight of the needle made Nightmare hold Gaia's neck tightly. For some reason, he feared the needle. What do you plan to do with that? Asked Gaia. When Michael filled the syringe with the royal dragon's blood, her question was answered. Nightmare, I'd suggest closing your eyes. Nightmare cowered behind Gaia's head, hearing Michael. Oh come on, you're not going to inject that thing into him. Gaia stopped Michael. Don't spoil him. He's a dragon. He won't even feel it. Michael rolled his eyes. Figure out another way. Gaia took a step back. She was not willing to let Michael stab Nightmare with that giant needle. Nightmare, Michael called out Nightmare. His voice was stern as Nightmare slowly peeked his head through Gaia's hair. Don't you want to be stronger? This injection can make you an unstoppable royal dragon. Nightmare's eyes sparkled. He slowly climbed on top of Gaia's head and stood on his 2 legs. What's wrong with being a forest dragon? We just killed a royal dragon. Bloodline means shit when you don't have power and battle experience, Gaia protested. Although she was right as usual, Michael wanted Nightmare to be a royal dragon. He didn't want Nightmare to feel inferior to any dragon in this world. It's okay, Nightmare nudged Gaia's head with his face. He then leaped onto Ghost's hand and closed his eyes tight. Shoot! Surprisingly, Gaia hissed, closing her eyes as though Michael was sticking the needle into her neck. Michael slowly injected the royal dragon's blood into Nightmare. The more he injected the blood, the hotter Nightmare's skin felt. He placed Nightmare under the apple tree. You can open your eyes now, Michael said to Gaia. Chapter 720. The next day after the Golden Port battle, a group of men was riding their horses through the frozen paddy fields. There were 20 to 30 wooden houses covered in snow. The women and men in the village stepped out of their warm homes to start their day. From the outside, the village looked no different than any other farming village. But this village was something more. It was a place where the Northgard rebels were hiding. General Zachary, the winter seemed to have hit this village pretty hard. Don't you think so? The man who led the group asked General Zachary. Except for the leader, the others were adorned with leather armor with metal plating to protect their chests and shoulders. 6 of the 7 of them were soul refining stage warriors. The leader was at the fusion stage level 10. He was none other than General Booth. Now, after being offered the Duchy of Valeria, he was called Duke Booth by the Thusians. Duke Booth halted riding his white-maned horse and stared at the village in the distance. "I think we should warm them up." Booth turned his gaze toward Zachary. His eyes glistened with killing intent. General Zachary nodded. Wasting no time, General Zachary ascended to the air. He flew toward the village. "Bring me the village leader and 5 others," Booth said to another soul refining stage general. "Burn the rest," Booth said. He was nonchalant. To him, burning this village was no different than having breakfast. He lost count of how many villages he burnt down and how many people he had killed. The villagers didn't notice Zachary hovering in the sky above them. The snowfall made their vision blurry. Their peaceful day took a turn for the worst when a fiery boulder hit the center of the village. The boulder hit the village with enough force to decimate the surrounding homes. Pieces of the fiery boulder scattered out, lighting the village like a Christmas tree. Some people screamed in shock, and some screamed in pain. General Austin was ordered to capture the village elder and 5 others. "I hope the old man is still in one piece," General Austin said, looking at the fire engulfing the entire village. He headed for the only 2-story building in the village. If the village elder was somewhere, it would be this lavish home. Meanwhile, General Zachary rained down fire from above. General Austin flew through the falling fiery boulders to the village elder's home. General Booth watched the village burn with a calm face. "Zachary is definitely having fun with his new spell," Booth chuckled. He gifted the spell to Zachary for capturing Prince Devarius. People would literally kill to have such a powerful epic-class spell. The destruction this spell brought could be compared to a legendary class spell. The boulders crushed the villagers and burnt their skin off. To this moment, the villagers had no idea why they were being slaughtered. Suddenly, 5 men shot toward the sky from the village. They wore silver robes and hoods to cover their heads. Booth and his general were familiar with the robes. Their robes once represented the Northgard royal family, and now, they belonged to the rebels led by Prince Devarius. Booth's mission was simple. He wanted to burn down some villages and take a few hostage. Unfortunately, he decided to burn down this village because the rebels chose this place to hide. General Zachary didn't even flinch when he saw the rebels. "It's because of you those villagers are dying right now," Zachary said with a devilish grin on his face. Fury and rage glistened under the rebels' hoods. The Thusians had invaded their homeland, pillaged their farms, feasted on their women, and burnt down villages. Simply put, the Thusians turned a once peaceful kingdom into a war zone. "They did nothing to you, bastard." One of the rebels couldn't keep his rage contained. He dashed at Zachary with his sword raised. The sword radiated a violet light. Hand of Justice, Zachary cast a spell as a fist made of sparkling silver energy materialized above the rebel. The rebel swung his sword left and right, trying to cut the fist. However, the power gap between a core formation warrior and a soul refining stage warrior with cosmic energy coursing through his body was gigantic. The fist opened up, grabbed the rebel, and squeezed him until he turned into a bloody paste. Before the other rebels could retaliate, Zachary raised his hand as several boulders soared down the sky and landed right on top of the rebels. The fire enveloping the boulders burnt down the rebels. They couldn't even defend themselves against Zachary. Booth watched the rebels' burnt bodies falling down from the sky with an amused smile. Booth didn't give a damn about the rebels. Otherwise, he would have ordered his men to capture them. No, Booth had bigger plans for the villagers. After killing the rebels, Zachary cast the meteor spell once again, not because he was required to but because he liked casting his new spell. In a few minutes, the village was completely destroyed. Furthermore, the spells turned the flat village into a massive crater. The village elder's house finally crumbled down to pieces. Luckily, Austin managed to grab the elder and 5 others in a bubble before Zachary destroyed the house. Despite the winter, the air became hotter. It took a few moments for the silence to take over the village. Except for the sound of crackling wood, one could hear nothing. When Zachary and Austin returned to Booth, he saw the unconscious bodies of the village elder and 5 others. "Send them to my castle," Booth waved his hand casually. Zachary nodded as he took out a golden scroll. When he tore the scroll, a bright light enveloped the villagers. The light disappeared as soon as it appeared with the villagers. "Where to your grace?" asked Zachary. "Isn't there another village nearby?" asked Booth. His men bobbed their heads up and down. "Then let's go there." The next day after Booth's visit to Northgard, Booth was ordered to meet someone from the Guardian Guild. Booth stood before the mirror, neatly combing his hair and mustache. Usually, Booth preferred to be in armor and avoid fancy robes, but today was an exception. Apparently, the man he was about to meet was a major financial backer of the Guardian Guild. So Princess Victoria ordered him to be on his best behavior. "Why can't Edith meet with this old pig?" Booth snickered. "Your Grace, Lord Oswald is waiting for you in the guest room." Booth heard his maid sound gentle and sweet as always. "I'll be there in a minute," said Booth. He adjusted his robes one last time and walked out of the room. By the time he reached the guest room, he saw a short man with no hair whatsoever on his head munching on the apples waiting for him. The man's belly was big enough to make Booth doubt whether he had swallowed a pig whole. "Duke Booth," the man grinned from ear to ear. Bits of pieces of apple flew out of his mouth. He was simply disgusting in Booth's eyes. Nonetheless, he had to show this man some respect in order to get his help. "Lord Oswald, I hope you had a pleasant trip." Booth let out a phony smile. "It was wonderful," Lord Oswald clapped. "I honestly didn't think Princess Victoria would personally reach out to me and ask me to meet you." "This must be pretty important given the unfortunate circumstances," said Oswald. "It's not unfortunate, just a few bumps on the road. With your help, we can sort it out in no time," said Booth. "My help? I am not sure what I can do to help you in this war, Duke Booth." Oswald scratched his bald head. Booth was not stupid to believe Oswald. He knew very well the man was trying to play hardball. "I heard Lord Oswald has taken a liking to a piece of land in Valeria." "Is there any truth to what I heard?" asked Booth. People like Oswald had no chance of reaching higher cultivation stages. Hence, they loved wealth, land, and women more than they loved cultivation resources. Although Oswald had enough wealth to feed at least 5 generations, he lusted for more wealth and land. Victoria knew this. Her spies had been following Oswald for at least 6 months now. "I did like the land of Duke Booth. But I heard it belonged to Queen Valeria's family," Oswald sighed. "I can literally imagine a 5-acre vineyard, the smell of ripe grapes and the sweet taste of high-quality wine." Booth leaned forward. "What if I tell you I can get you the land and help you build the vineyard of your dream?" Oswald pretended to be surprised. But inside, he knew he could get his hands on the land. Thanks to Ghost, the Thusans had no choice but to come to him. In exchange for... Oswald dragged his words. "In exchange for the Guardian Guild to send their rogue immortals to deal with Ghost," said Booth. "That's a pretty big ask for a piece of land, Duke Booth." "It's not my decision but the board's decision," General Booth smiled. "We both know your capabilities to sway them to your side, Lord Oswald. Also, it's not only about the land, it's power and respect. Let's just assume I can help you. There are 7 others on the board. Convincing them to vote to send an immortal to Thusia to help you win a war that you started first is nothing but impossible. Oswald shook his head. You've made the impossible possible by rewriting the rules, Lord Oswald. Don't you think the land would go nice with the princess? Oswald was pleasantly surprised. What do you mean by that, Duke Booth? Oswald asked. His jaw almost dropped down. I mean, once you sway the board to send an immortal to put an end to Ghost, His Majesty would be happy to offer Princess Victoria's hands to your son in marriage. I am pretty sure that's worth more than the votes of your fellow board members. Are you joking with me right now, Duke Booth? Asked Oswald. Booth's smile disappeared from his face. Do I look like I am joking, Lord Oswald? You're tuning into the Path of the True Immortal YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.